I stepping into this giant iron cage elevator big enough to park 10 horse carriages in. The thing screamed and hissed like an angry tea kettle, and then, whoosh, down I went. The sunlight above me shrank into a tiny dot and vanished. Welcome to darkness, Victor. Hope you packed your nightlight. Instead of sunshine, I got creepy blue alchemy lamps stuck in the rock walls. The air down here smelled like someone mixed rusty nails with rotten eggs. Lovely. This place is called the Nine Curves Abyss, the underground city beneath Frigid Wind City. Basically a massive cave system so huge the ceiling is 50 meters up and you can't even see it properly. And get this, there are 9 floors. Starting from floor 2, monsters just randomly pop out of magical portals. Nobody knows where these things come from. Nobody. The portals are one way, so it's not like you can send them a complaint letter. So yeah, the entire city is basically built on top of a giant pressure cooker, and us adventurers, we're the steam valves. How comforting. 3 minutes of rattling later, the elevator screeched to a stop at floor 1. A guard in full heavy armor yelled at everyone to get out. Real welcoming guy. I stepped onto solid black rock and looked around. Floor 1 is basically the safe zone. A transit hub with a few goblin merchants squatting in corners trying to sell garbage glowstones to tourists. Now, let me tell you about my genius money-saving plan. I picked up this delivery quest from the Adventurers Association. Carry a spatial bag to a camp on floor 2. Pay 1 silver coin. Barely enough to buy 2 decent arrows. Pathetic, right? But, and this is the big but, having that quest pass means I don't pay the entry toll. 50 copper coins saved. That's a whole day's in fee. Financial mastermind Victor strikes again. The quest is so easy even the lowest rank adventurers could do it, but the Lord's office only lets licensed professionals take it because the spatial bag is expensive. If some random adventurer runs off with it, good luck tracking them down. But if a guild-registered professional tries that, their guild is always there. And a guild that spans 6 kingdoms will absolutely hunt your sorry behind to the ends of the earth. So yeah, nobody steals the bag. The road ahead was about 10 kilometers of tunnel called the Gray Rock Corridor, mostly safe, but sometimes a monster sneaks up from the lower floors. I took my time. First visit, no need to be a hero. I was really here to find some solo tier 3 monsters anyway. Got 2 shiny new skills hungry for experience. Then it happened. Squeak. Something the size of a fat dog burst out of an abandoned mineshaft. A mutant mine rat, covered in hard gray armor plating, glowing red eyes locked on me like I was an all-you-can-eat buffet. Old Victor would have stopped, pulled out his bow, checked the wind direction, maybe said a little prayer. New Victor? I didn't even slow down. Blue data streams flickered through my vision. Weakness insight kicked in. I could see it clear as day. A soft patch on its belly where years of scraping against rocks had worn the armor thin. Bullseye. I didn't bother with arrows. Pulled my short dagger instead. Sidestep. Slide. Upward slash. Forest stride activated. My body did this physics-defying mid-air angle dodge that would make a cat jealous. Dodged the teeth, and my dagger rode the momentum right across that soft spot. Splat. Nasty blood everywhere. Dagger back in its sheath. Didn't even break my stride. Not one step out of rhythm. The rat twitched twice behind me and called it quits on life. Forest stride is actually awesome. I gotta say, the whole sequence was extremely cool. Movie-level cool. The only tragedy? 0 audience. Not a single witness to my magnificence. The universe is cruel. I went back and cut out a little pouch from the rat's throat. It's full of powder from digested glowing moss. The Alchemist Guild buys these all day long. Free money off a dead rat. Don't mind if I do. Half an hour later, I reached floor 2's elevator station. It looked less like a camp and more like a mini fortress. 3-meter stone walls, heavy crossbow turrets on top. Guards who looked like they'd stab first and ask questions never. I flashed my quest scroll, handed over the bag, and the soldier's murder face softened about 2%. Supply delivery? Go in. Quartermaster's tent, left side. Dropped off the goods, got my completion stamp, and then, here's the beautiful part. I walked straight to the floor 2 elevator. See, the toll system charges per floor. Every floor down costs money because the Lord's office has to maintain all these troops and forts. Makes sense. But, if you're carrying a Lord's office quest pass, every elevator is free. All the way down. The completion certificate doubles as an unlimited ride pass. Nobody does budget adventuring like me. The elevator doors opened, and I grinned. Time for round 2. Let the hunting begin. So I walked into the underground level 2 camp, the Gray Rat Camp, and honestly, it was like a Walmart on Black Friday, but with swords. People screaming about fresh monster armor for sale, dudes fixing leather gear, some guy desperately looking for a tank player to go spider hunting. Classic dungeon economy stuff. I ducked into a tent called Old Blind Man's Intel Shop and came out 10 silver coins poorer with a monster map that gets updated daily. 10 silver for a piece of goat skin with red X's on it. But hey, the dungeon reshuffles itself like a drunk dealer at a casino, so yesterday's safe hallway is today's. Oh no, a boss lives here now. Can't cheap out on that. Looking at the map, I figured out what I'd be dealing with. Cave rats, vampire bats, and some nasty armored scavenger beasts. Standard menu. But here's my problem. I'm a ranger. I shoot things from far away. And this place? Tight tunnels, zero visibility, darkness everywhere. My longbow is basically a fancy stick if anything gets close. Time to get creative. I went 3 kilometers deep, where it got dead quiet. Then I did something kind of genius, if I say so myself. I plucked my bowstring like a tiny harp. Just one little twang. The sound bounced off the walls and came back to me, and thanks to my blind fighting skills, I could feel every vibration through my skin. Boom! Homemade sonar. I literally turned myself into a bat. A very handsome, armed bat. Proved it worked immediately when I sensed a lizard hiding on the ceiling above me, about to jump on my head. Didn't even aim, just whipped the bow up and pinned its brain to the stalactite. Welcome to my TED Talk on how to not get eaten. Then the terrain got stupid. Cliffs, no paths, just little toe holes carved into rock faces. Old me would have climbed like a terrified gecko. New me? I blasted wind energy under my boots, ran sideways on a vertical wall like some kind of gravity-cheating lunatic, and basically parkoured through the whole thing. The wind vacuum trick only lasts 5 or 6 seconds, but that's plenty when you're cool enough to pull it off. Mid-wall run, I heard footsteps around a corner. A goblin patrol, 7 or 8 of the ugly little things with rusty pickaxes, setting up an ambush. How adorable. They thought they were the predators. I was literally hanging in midair with zero leverage, which looks bad, I admit. But I twisted, drew the bow, and aimed at the wall. Not at them. At the wall. Everyone watching would have thought I'd lost my mind. The arrow hit the wall, and, thanks to the spiral wind wrapped around it, ricocheted around the corner like a pool trick shot. Punched straight through 3 goblins' throats before it ran out of juice. The rest didn't even process what happened before I landed and turned my bow into a bladed melee weapon, slicing necks left and right. Didn't even bother collecting their ears for bounty. Not worth my time. 4 days of practice, and I'd figured out my new fighting style. Less, noble archer on an open field. More, murder ghost who lives in the walls. Then I went deeper into level 3, where the air tasted like someone dissolved batteries in vinegar. According to the map, I was near the edge of a corrosive ant nest. Watch out for acid traps, I told myself, very wisely. And then every single alarm bell in my body went off at once. Something was watching me. Something big. I threw myself sideways without thinking, and the spot where I'd been standing just exploded. A giant pink tongue, thick as my thigh, covered in barbs and disgusting slime, slammed into solid rock like a battering ram. Chunks of stone went flying. A tongue. The boulder in the corner started moving. Surprise. It was a level 3 boss monster, a giant tongue anteater. Tank-sized body, armored hide, tiny evil eyes, and a tongue that could launch out dozens of meters, crush rock, and paralyze you with toxic mucus. Despite the cute name, this thing eats everything that moves. That blind old fraud ripped me off. This thing isn't supposed to be on level 3's edge. The tongue shot at me again like a guided missile in a hallway. Way too fast to dodge properly. I surfed along the wall on wind power, barely dodging. The tongue grazed my armor, and just the breeze from it made me dizzy. Running was suicide. You can't outrun a tongue. So I did the only logical thing. I charged toward it. If I can't create distance, fine. Let's get intimate. Let's see whose close-range game is better. You want to eat me? Hope your teeth are ready for the worst meal of your life. I started gathering more wind energy on my bow than I'd ever compressed before. This was about to get either very awesome or very messy. So there I was, Bow pulled back so hard the thing was literally screaming at me, wind energy crawling up my arm like I was becoming a tornado with legs. 5 meters from the giant anteater. Point-blank range. This was either going to be awesome or the last thing I ever did. Die. I let the arrow fly. This thing was so fast it created a visible shockwave ring in the air, like a tiny sonic boom, straight at those beady little evil eyes. And you know what this overgrown armadillo did? Did it block with its armor? Did it tank the hit like a real man? No. It whipped its disgusting slimy tongue sideways and deflected my arrow. The mucus on that tongue somehow absorbed all my wind energy like a gross organic airbag. My perfect kill shot just slid off. The arrow sparked against its eyelid and buried itself in the wall behind it. Are you kidding me? That tongue isn't just a weapon. It's a shield, a whip, and apparently a physics-defying force field. I didn't even get a second to process this injustice before the tongue came back around and smacked me across the chest like a steel cable. I went flying, crashed into a pile of rocks, coughed up blood. My hand split open. If I hadn't cushioned the impact with wind energy, my ribcage would have been a jigsaw puzzle. Well, this is bad. I activated my stealth camouflage, full power, maximum blur. Visually, I was basically invisible. I crept along the shadows, trying to sneak behind it. The monster didn't even turn its head. Its tongue just casually obliterated the exact spot I was about to step on. It wasn't using its eyes to track me. I could have been wearing a full invisibility cloak, and this thing would still know exactly where I was. It was like I had a neon, "Eat me," sign strapped to my back. What followed was genuinely the worst few minutes of my life. I was a mouse being toyed with by the world's ugliest, slimiest cat. The tongue kept switching styles, sometimes a sledgehammer, sometimes a lasso trying to grab my ankles. I was running on walls, dodging, rolling, getting progressively more beat up. At one point it shattered the wall right under my feet while I was wall running. A sharp rock sliced my thigh open. Blood everywhere. And the smell of blood made this thing go absolutely feral. Attack sped up. Each tongue whip sounded like a cracking bullwhip from hell. I'm going to die of exhaustion before this thing even eats me. Arrows bounce off. Stealth doesn't work. I can't outfight it up close. I was running out of ideas faster than I was running out of blood. Then, mid-dodge roll, my eyes landed on something. That arrow. My arrow. The one the anteater deflected earlier, still stuck in the wall up high. And because I'd pumped so much wind energy into it, there was still a tiny vortex of air swirling around it. Like a little invisible tornado, just waiting. And that's when my brain did something beautiful. Something stupid. Something so mathematically insane that if I told anyone, they'd have me committed. I stopped running. Stood right in the middle of the tunnel. Drew my bow. The anteater looked at me like, "Oh, you're done running? Cute." It growled mockingly and started charging up for its finishing move. But this arrow wasn't aimed at the anteater. It wasn't aimed at any weak spot. I loaded all my wind energy onto the tail of the arrow, not for damage, but for steering. I shot it into the path where the tongue was about to swing. Right on cue, the big dummy swatted it with its tongue like it always does. But this time, the arrow didn't shatter. The wind coating protected it. Instead, it got launched sideways at high speed, exactly like I wanted. Here's where it gets absolutely bonkers. The deflected arrow, guided by the tail-mounted wind energy, corrected its own trajectory mid-flight and slammed into the arrow already stuck in the wall. Bullseye. Hit it right on the tail feathers. The dormant wind vortex on the old arrow woke up. Both wind sources fused together and detonated. The arrow rebounded off the wall at near the speed of sound, coming from a completely impossible angle. High up, from the side, from the one direction this creature would never expect an attack because nothing was there. Its tongue was still extended. Its attention was on me. It had zero defense ready for an attack from its own ceiling. The ghost arrow drilled straight into its left eyeball. Deep. Clean. No resistance. I basically invented a two-bank trick shot using the monster's own deflection as step one of a three-part billiards play that ended with an arrow in its brain socket. If pool halls existed in this world, I'd be banned from all of them. So my genius trick shot worked. Sort of. The arrow buried itself halfway into the anteater's left eye, black blood pouring down its armored face like the world's grossest waterfall. Victory, right? Wrong. Instead of going blind and stumbling around like I expected, this thing just got mad. Like, you scratch my car, levels of mad times 1,000. Its tongue exploded outward with zero warning, pure murder intent, and turned the spot where I'd been standing into literal powder. Granite turned to dust. If that had hit me, they'd need a sponge to collect what was left. I crouched in the shadows, drenched in my own cold sweat, having a very important realization. Losing and I didn't affect this thing's aim at all. Cool. Great. Love that for me. I tried 2 more shots because I'm stubborn and also out of better ideas. Shot 1. Attempted another trick shot ricochet at its right eye. The monster learned from last time. Its tongue immediately slapped back to guard its face with that disgusting snot shield. Smart jerk. Shot 2. Aimed at its belly. The arrow literally bounced off like I'd shot a rubber ball at a tank. Its entire body is covered in inch-thick armor plating. The only soft spots are the eyes and the inside of its mouth. Fantastic design. 10 out of 10. Whoever created this species should be fired. Calm down, Victor. Calm down. I hid behind a boulder, listening to that tongue smash the ground over and over like a countdown clock to my funeral. Thwack, thwack, thwack. Each hit saying, "You're next, buddy." Then I turned on my weak point detection at full blast. The world went gray and flat, like looking through an X-ray machine. And there, on that horrible tongue, I finally saw it. Thousands of glowing nerve bundles packed together like tree roots. And at the very tip, a blazing blue energy node, pulsing like a lighthouse. Every time the tongue moved, that blue node sent out invisible waves in all directions. Waves that swept over rocks, air, and me. That's how it was tracking me. Not sight, not sound. The tongue was tasting the air. It was one giant sensory organ. This thing had been licking my location this entire time. I felt violated on a molecular level. But now I knew the weak point. I grabbed a steel arrow, loaded it with spinning wind energy, and popped out from cover right when the tongue was fully extended and exposed. The blue sensor node was glowing like a "shoot here, idiot" sign. The anteater tried its mucus deflection trick again. Old reliable. Except this time, my arrow was spinning like a drill. The moment it touched that slime layer, the centrifugal force ripped the mucus apart like a tornado hitting a puddle. Just flung it everywhere. And underneath that protective goo, the tongue was soft as tofu. My arrow drilled straight through, shredding muscle fibers and nerve bundles like a blender. Blew a gaping hole right through the middle of the tongue. The scream that came out of this creature made the eye-shot reaction sound like a gentle sigh. This was opera-level shrieking. The once deadly precision tongue flopped to the ground like a dead snake, twitching uselessly. Now we're talking. No mercy. No pause. I put 2 more arrows into it. One in the middle of the tongue, one into the roof of its mouth when it screamed with its jaw wide open. Thank you for the opening, you dramatic baby. The anteater completely panicked. Started scrambling backward, claws gouging trenches in the stone floor, desperately trying to retreat underground. Oh, now you want to leave? After all that? Nah, we're finishing this. I drew my short sword, went full melee mode, and turned into a shadow. With its tongue destroyed, this thing had basically lost its GPS, its main weapon, and its shield all at once. It was swinging its claws around blindly like a drunk guy in a bar fight. I dodged the claws, climbed up its knee like a ladder, and started surgically cutting into what was left of the tongue at the root. Technique was key. Slice through the slime layer first, then carve the meat underneath. Blood sprayed like a broken fire hydrant. It took me almost 20 minutes of hacking to finish this thing off. 20. I basically performed the world's worst surgery on the world's ugliest patient. When it finally collapsed, it sounded like a building falling over. Legs twitching, throat gurgling, bleeding out from its tongue stump. I stood over the body, gasping for air, sword hand shaking. This was my first real fight against a fully healthy level 3 boss creature, and let me tell you, I was humbled. I'd been walking around thinking, I can. One-shot level 2 monsters, so level 3 should be fine, right? The difference between level 2 and level 3 is like the difference between arm wrestling a child and arm wrestling a forklift. I kicked the severed tongue chunk with my boot. The slime had dried up, revealing tiny pink bumps underneath, taste buds. Thousands of them. This thing really had been tasting its way through combat. Its tongue was basically a combination sword shield radar dish made of meat. Honestly, disgusting, but also kind of impressive. Respect to the dead murder tongue. I sheathed my sword, knelt beside the still warm carcass, and pressed my hand against it. Loot time. After nearly getting turned into paste for 20 minutes. This reward better be incredible. I held my breath and watched the text appear. Time to play butcher. I carved up the anteater like a Thanksgiving turkey from hell. Grabbed the acid sac, valuable. Peeled off the back armor plate, great shield material. And the tongue. Look, it was covered in slime and tumors and smelled like a dumpster behind a seafood restaurant. But rare alchemy ingredients are rare alchemy ingredients. I shoved it into a sealed bag while trying not to think about what I was touching. Problem: the armor plate was the size of a small boat. My magic storage bag? Already stuffed to the brim with supplies and random junk I bought back in town. So yours truly had to strap a 100-pound shell to his back and waddle to camp like the world's most miserable turtle cosplayer. The Level 3 camp, Blackrock Camp, was a completely different vibe from the noisy flea market upstairs. No shouting vendors. No bargain hunters. Just stone-cold killers silently polishing their weapons around eternal bonfires, keeping "I will stab you if you get closer" distance from each other. I staggered in carrying my giant trophy shell and immediately got stares. Is that a Level 3 anteater's backplate? Some bald muscle dude with a greatsword squinted at me. Clean cuts too. Did this kid solo a Level 3? Yeah, I did, Baldy. Thanks for noticing. Then some hook-nosed goblin merchant slithered up to me like we were old friends, tapped on my shell, and without even looking at me goes, 50 silver, 50 silver. He started listing reasons. Scratches here, damage there, shipping costs, you know how it is, while I just stared at him. This shell goes for at least 5 gold at auction in Coldwind City. That's 10 times what this little scammer was offering. He saw my injuries and figured I was desperate. I walked right past him without a word. Wait, 60.70, he yelled behind me. Keep yelling, buddy. I can still hear you, and I'm still not interested. I found the lodging area. 1 single tent, please. 50 silver per night. Deposit extra? My eye twitched so hard I think it counted as a medical event. 50 silver for a tent. But this camp is protected by both the Lord's Office and the Adventurers Guild. Nobody's dumb enough to start trouble here. Safety costs money, and being dead costs more. I paid. I dumped the shell, collapsed onto the camp bed, and my entire body immediately filed a formal complaint. Every muscle screaming, that gash on my thigh burning like someone was holding a match to it. I slapped some medicine on the wound and turned my attention to the real prize. Floating in my vision, one shiny new blue tier enchantment. Sensitive giant tongue. Yeah, that's what it's called. I didn't name it. My first thought was obvious. Slap this onto my blind fighting skill. It's a perception enchantment. Blind fighting is a perception skill. It's like peanut butter and jelly. I'd be able to sense enemies from every direction, predict their moves, become an untouchable close combat machine. Very tempting. That tongue's tracking ability nearly killed me, after all. But, no, I shook my head. Blind fighting is a backup skill. I'm a ranger, not an assassin. My real problem isn't close combat awareness. It's that my body is made of wet cardboard. The orphan I possessed was malnourished for years. One good hit from a level 3 monster, and I'm done. Glass cannon with emphasis on glass. The only way to actually upgrade my body is through breathing technique. The fundamental skill that lets people like me absorb ambient magic energy and physically evolve. Go big or go home. I took a deep breath, grabbed that glowing blue enchantment, and slammed it into my basic breathing technique. Immediately started coughing like I'd inhaled soup. Because that's literally what breathing felt like now. The air had turned into thick broth. I took one breath using the technique, and the world exploded with flavor. I could taste the bitter moss on the walls. I could taste the spicy tang of the alchemy lamps. And most importantly, I could taste these cool, minty little energy particles floating in the air, the ambient magic that I'd always struggled to absorb. And they were rushing into me, like fish fighting to get hooked. Every breath was an all-you-can-eat buffet of pure magical energy. My skill had evolved into something called Gourmet's tasting breath technique. The description was basically, to a true foodie, even air is a 5-course meal. Every breath steals energy from the environment. Your body gets stronger just from existing. Also, your tongue can now taste everyone's emotions, injuries, and battle intentions in the area. I just sat there, breathing, feeling my body slowly power up for the first time in months. That wall I'd been banging my head against. Gone. Popped like a soap bubble. A patrol walked past my tent outside. I didn't see them. Didn't need to. Just adjusted my breathing and information poured in through my nose like a restaurant menu. Fear tastes like sour lemon. Injury tastes like rusty iron. I could sense their old wounds, their energy blockages, their general condition, all from breathing in their direction. My blind fighting skill was like a motion sensor on a porch light. This new breathing technique was like having a satellite surveillance system that runs on sniffing. I sat in my overpriced tent, breathing expensive dungeon air, tasting the emotional states of strangers, and slowly becoming superhuman. Best 50 silver I ever spent. I woke up in my ridiculously overpriced tent, and you know what? Worth every copper. The soundproofing barrier blocked all noise. The temperature was perfect, and my new breathing technique had been running on autopilot all night. I basically leveled up in my sleep, like soaking in a magical hot tub that makes you stronger. Every cell in my body was doing a little happy dance. Not only am I fully healed, I think I actually got buffer overnight. Check my stats. Yep, gains while sleeping. This is the dream. Literally. But I still had a boat-sized anteater shell strapped to my back, and if I didn't sell it soon, I was going to develop a permanent hunchback. Time to go topside and get paid. Half-hour later, I was standing in Coldwind City's shopping district, squinting at sunlight like a vampire who forgot his calendar. After days in the dungeon, even polluted city air smelled like freedom. Freedom and money. I walked straight into the Violet Auction House, a massive building with a golden dome. This place does business across the entire continent, supposedly even trades with the Orc Empire up north. Unlike that scummy goblin who offered me 50 silver, these people at least rob you politely. The receptionist saw my shredded, blood-caked armor and didn't even flinch. In this city, looking like you lost a fight with a meat grinder means you've been deep underground. And deep underground means expensive loot. Cash. Now, I'm in a hurry. I dumped everything on the appraisal table. The giant shell, the acid sack, the slimy tongue, and miscellaneous monster bits. A bunch of old guys with monocles crowded around like kids at a candy store. Oh, level 3 anteater shell. Excellent condition. These tongue cuts are from a short sword. This acid sac extraction is very clean. They kept glancing at me like, how is this baby-faced ranger carrying boss-tier materials? Yeah, I get that a lot. Well, I don't. But I will. The manager came over with the final numbers. Shell, 35 gold. Acid sac, 70 gold. Apparently alchemy guilds are desperate for these. Supply and demand, baby. Tongue, 10 gold. I chopped it up pretty bad, fair enough. Random bits, 7 gold. Minus fees, 112 gold total. 112 gold coins. I could have gotten more through auction, but that takes a week and an 8% cut. Nah, give me my money now. That bag of gold was the most beautiful thing I'd ever held. All the pain, the terror, the near-death tongue attacks suddenly didn't matter. Money is the world's best painkiller. Then I went across the street and speed ran spending it all. First stop, armor shop. My current leather armor was basically modern art at this point. Left shoulder melted through by acid, chest plate split open, held together by my undershirt and prayers. I was one strong breeze away from public indecency. I need something light but tough, I said, slapping the counter like a big shot. The dwarf shopkeeper, magnificent beard with little copper rings braided in, pulled out a dark green set made from drake leather with mithril thread woven through it. 35 gold. I touched it and immediately fell in love. Cool to the touch, dense scale pattern with tiny silver sparkles running through like stars. In the dungeon, defense beats offense every time. You can't kill monsters if you're dead. Sold. Next stop, the bag shop. My current storage bag from Blackstone Town held 1 cubic meter. That's nothing. I couldn't even fit the anteater shell in there. Time for an upgrade. Traded in the old bag plus 75 gold coins for a 5 cubic meter adventurer's backpack. I looked at my coin purse afterward. Almost empty. I'd burned through over 100 gold in about 20 minutes. Money's just numbers. You lose it, you make more. I told myself, trying very hard to believe it. Then I did something smart for once. I took 2 whole days OFF. Stayed in my inn room, window open, cold wind blowing in, and just practiced my new breathing technique. Every breath was a feast. I'd bite the air, literally open my mouth and chomp, and taste wind element particles like minty candy dissolving on my tongue. They flowed into my blood, circulated through my body, and settled into my muscles. My physical stats climbed to 12. Strength and agility both went up too. This breathing technique is the real deal. The sensory side was also impressive. Maybe too impressive. The couple next door? I took one deep breath and the pheromones in the air told me exactly what time they went to bed last night, what they were doing, and, based on the salt content of the guy's sweat, that he probably needs to see a doctor about his kidneys. I did not ask for this information. My nose just volunteered it like an overeager detective. If the ranger thing doesn't work out, I could definitely make a living as a private investigator, or a very uncomfortable doctor. I forcefully shut off my neighbor-sniffing radar and focused on training. Some abilities you just don't use in polite society. 2 days later, I walked out of that and feeling like a completely different person. New dark green armor gleaming, half-empty adventure pack ready for loot, freshly maintained black horn bow on my hip. Stats up, skills sharpened, wallet empty but spirit full. I pulled my hat low, walked against the flow of people heading home for the evening, and marched straight toward the abyss. Time to go make that money back. With interest. Paid the entrance fee like a regular commuter taking the subway to hell. No guild quests this time, just freelance monster hunting. The elevator groaned its way down, and I leaned against the bars thinking about how my life has become. Ride giant cage into darkness, kill things, sell their body parts, repeat. Level 3. But, instead of going deeper, I picked a nasty abandoned mine tunnel, flooded puddles, dripping stalactites, the kind of place that screams, something disgusting lives here. Old me would have noped out of this zone immediately. New me? I closed my eyes, opened my mouth, and took a big sip of air like a wine snob at a tasting. Opening notes, rotting wood from old mining supports. Mid-palate, iron and sulfur from the ore veins. And the finish, my tongue caught something. A sour, sticky, rancid glue flavor coming from directly above me. Gotcha. Eyes open, bow up, arrow out, zero pause. I shot straight up at what looked like empty ceiling. A disgusting gray-green blob of translucent jelly screamed a wet, gurgling scream and fell off the ceiling with my arrow buried in its core. Level 2 Acid Slime, the dungeon's most disgusting assassin. These things shape-shift into rocks or puddles, creep up silently, wrap around you, and dissolve you into human soup in minutes. My spinning wind arrow was already shredding its gel core from the inside like a blender. It went from ambush predator to actual puddle before it even got to attack. A month ago, that thing would have gotten the drop on me for sure. With my new breathing technique, hidden monsters might as well be wearing neon signs. You can hide from eyes. You can hide from ears. But you can't hide your smell from a guy who literally tastes the air. I touched the slime corpse. Gross, wet, exactly as bad as you'd imagine, and got a green enchantment. Non-Newtonian fluid. What the heck is that? I ransacked my brain for physics class memories and came up empty. Gave it all back to my teacher. Every last formula. But I remembered how this slime moved. It looked like thick paste but moved fast and completely silent. Perfect for my footwork skill, which was still unenchanted. I slammed the enchantment in and got Phantom Step. The description was poetry. Treat it gently, and it flows like water. Strike it hard, and it hits like iron. In stealth mode, my feet literally flow over surfaces. I could step on dry leaves, and they wouldn't crunch. In combat mode, every stomp becomes an explosive launch pad. Time to test it. I started running and stepped on a puddle. Not a single splash. Not even a proper ripple. Just a tiny circle like I'd dropped a pin in it. I bounced off walls in zigzag patterns through the whole tunnel, and the only sound was my own breathing. If you closed your eyes, you'd think the place was empty. That's incredible. I was so focused on playing with my new toy that I accidentally wandered right up to a level 2 wind listener rock lizard. These things have terrible eyesight but ears the size of satellite dishes. They can feel a mouse walking from 30 meters away. I was 5 meters behind it. 5. It was napping. Didn't even twitch. I could smell the sulfur on its skin and the blood from its last meal through my breathing technique. 5 meters from a creature whose entire survival strategy is hearing things approach, and it had no idea I was there. Then I switched gears. Gentle stream becomes avalanche. I stomped hard, the explosive version of Phantom Step, and closed 5 meters in a blink. The lizard barely had time to think, before my short sword punched through the back of its skull with so much force that the corpse flew 2 meters and slammed into the opposite wall. I looked at the ground where I'd launched from. Just a faint white scuff mark. All that power, almost no trace. Silent as a ghost, explosive as a bomb. This is absolutely broken. I spent the next few hours becoming the level 3 monster population's worst nightmare. A giant crab disguised as a rock. Arrow through the joint gap before it could even open its claws. 2 shadow bats fighting over territory. 1 spinning arrow, 2 dead bats. Efficiency. I kept farming level 2 monsters, collecting enchantments, grinding skill levels. The temptation to rush deeper was screaming at me, but I squashed it. That anteater taught me what happens when you get cocky. Slow and steady. Stack power. Build the character sheet. Besides, there's something deeply satisfying about being so overpowered that monsters designed to ambush you become the ones getting ambushed. The food chain has been officially reversed. A few more days of this grind, and level 4 won't know what hit it. I wandered into Craftsman Alley, the part of town that smells like chemical accidents and sounds like someone's beating pots with hammers. My destination, a little enchanting shop called Starlight Hand, recommended by some adventurer I met underground. I noticed that the deeper I go in the dungeon, the more people are walking around with glowing weapons and sparkly armor. Enchanting is apparently the norm here, not some luxury thing. And while my cheat ability lets me enchant stuff by literally slapping monster souls onto my gear like stickers, I figured I should understand how normal people do it before I go crazy with my own. Equipment. 3 ways to upgrade gear in this world. Embed magic cores into weapons, carve mini-spell circles on them, like the rune guy from Blackstone Town, or get an actual enchanter to do proper enchantment work. All 3 can stack, like accessories for your accessories. I pushed open the door, cute wind chime, lavender smell, cozy vibes, and found a girl who looked about 15 behind the counter, doodling on parchment with a feather pen. Welcome to Starlight Hand. I'm Mira. How can I help? I played it cautious, asked about their enchanter. Mira puffed up her very much not puffed up chest proudly, and informed me her sister is a certified enchanter from the Mage Guild. Comes in Wednesdays and Fridays. Very official. Very legit. I picked up a display sword from the shelf. Beautiful craftsmanship, with pale blue light flowing along the blade like it was alive. Mira explained it had a tier 3 sharpness enchantment. Could cut through level 2 monster hide, even if a normal person swung it. I held it and felt the energy. It was interesting, heavy and stiff, like someone dressed the sword in an energy coat rather than changing the sword itself. Compared to my old enchanted bow, similar concept, slight differences. How much? I asked casually. 160 gold coins. I nearly choked on my own spit. The sword shook in my hand. 160. I killed a mutant level 3 boss monster solo, harvested every usable organ, sold it all to an auction house, and got 112 gold. This one sword costs more than an entire boss monster's net worth? Mira saw my face melt and panicked, thinking I thought they were scammers. She started speed lecturing me on why enchanting costs a kidney. First, you need monster spirit essence, not regular magic cores you buy on the street. These have to be extracted from freshly killed level 2 monsters with strong mental energy, using special soul capture bottles. 1 bottle costs 50 gold minimum. I blinked. Wait. Is that what my cheat ability harvests when I touch monster corpses? Free spirit essence? Every single time? She kept going. You can't even use the essence raw? It's full of death grudge contamination. The enchanter spends days purifying it with mental energy and special solutions. Skip that step and the user gets brain damage or magic backlash. That's just step 1. She grabbed the sword and pointed at the blade patterns. Then you need custom alchemy solutions as a bonding medium, different for every material and essence type. Mix the ratio wrong. Explosion. Then during the actual fusion, the enchanter has to maintain perfect concentration guiding the energy circuits. 1 mistake. Essence gone, weapon destroyed, enchanter injured. Then you seal it with magic containment lacquer. She went on, and I just stood there having my entire worldview rearranged. Normal enchanters go through a multi-day, high-risk, expensive, technically demanding engineering process that can literally blow up in their face. Meanwhile, my process is touch dead monster, get glowy orb, drag and drop onto skill or weapon. Done. No purification, no explosions, no brain damage. I've been doing the equivalent of a 5-star restaurant signature dish by microwaving leftovers and somehow getting the same result. Okay, 160 gold actually sounds reasonable, I admitted. Right? Mira beamed. She then mentioned that you can do layered enchanting, sharpness on the blade, grip enhancement on the handle, weight reduction on the body, which made me realize I should probably think about combo enchantments with my own cheat system too. Mental note filed. But I had one practical concern. This sword glows like a night light the second you push energy into it. I'm a stealth build. In a pitch-black dungeon, I'd basically be a walking please eat me beacon. Mira grinned like she'd been waiting for this exact question. Oh, you'd be surprised. Some noble rich kids love the glow. They activate their weapons just walking around town because they think it looks cool. She rolled her eyes, then pulled out a small black bottle from under the counter. But for professionals like yourself, Shadow Veil Oil. Alchemy coating that absorbs the magic glow without affecting the enchantment. Also slightly rust-proof and sound-dampening. 5 gold per bottle, included with any enchanting order. Now we're talking. I didn't need their enchanting service. My cheat system handles that for free, but that anti-glow oil? That I desperately needed. My enchanted gear lights up like Christmas decorations, which is the opposite of helpful when your whole combat style is invisible murder ghost. Give me 5 bottles. Myra's jaw dropped. Nobody had ever just bought the oil by itself before. It's supposed to be an add-on service, like buying fries without the burger. Is it? Not for individual sale? No, it can be sold separately. It's just. Nobody's ever. The 5 gold actually includes the application labor, so standalone should be cheaper. This poor girl was having a pricing crisis in real time. Just charge me 5 gold each. Tell me how to apply it myself, and we're good. 25 gold lighter, 5 bottles of magical concealer richer. I walked out of that shop with the biggest grin on my face. My cheat ability gives me free enchanting. This oil hides the evidence. Once I coat my gear, I get all the power boost with 0 visible glow. No glowing sword announcing my position. No shiny armor ruining my stealth. My combat power is about to go through the roof, and nobody will see it coming. Literally. Level 5 of the dungeon. This is where the real estate gets fancy. 100-meter ceilings, giant stalactites, glowing moss everywhere. Also where level 3 boss monsters set up permanent kingdoms with armies of level 1 and 2 minions. Cozy. I was hanging on a vertical cliff face 30 meters up, boots glued to the rock thanks to my new enchantment, Deep-Rooted, which basically turns my footwear into suction cups from hell. 0 footholds needed. Just vibes and magic adhesion. Below me, a herd of rock-armored mammoths. Picture an elephant crossed with a tank crossed with a very angry building. The scout mammoth had already taken 1 arrow and was not happy about it. Behind it, 7 or 8 adults. And lurking in the shadows, a 2-story tall level 3 boss, the earth-splitting mammoth lord. My arrows kept finding the tiny gaps in their rock armor because, well, nothing hides from my eyes anymore. The mammoths looked up at me clinging to the wall like the world's most annoying spider and had a group meeting. Their solution? Ram the wall. 3 of them lined up like bowling balls and charged. Their tusks hit the base of my cliff and the whole thing shook like an earthquake. Rocks raining down, the wall vibrating so hard it could have blended a smoothie. But I didn't budge. Not even a wobble. My new dark green armor, freshly enchanted with kinetic absorption, ate that shockwave like a snack. The special fibers inside just grabbed all that impact energy and said, "Thanks, we'll take that." The vibration hit me and simply vanished. Can't shake me off? Guess it's my turn. I kept sniping from the wall like a turret with unlimited ammo. The Mammoth Lord finally realized its strategy of shake the wall was accomplishing absolutely nothing except giving me free target practice. It roared a command. The minion mammoths stopped ramming and spread out in formation. Then they all reared up on their hind legs and stomped the ground simultaneously. The floor exploded. Chunks of rock the size of bathtubs launched into the air. Then, and I cannot stress how insane this was, these giant mammoths swung their trunks like baseball bats and smacked those boulders directly at me, 30 meters up, with terrifying accuracy. Excuse me? Since when are mammoths catapults? A dozen boulder cannonballs screamed toward me. Getting hit by even one would turn me into a wall decoration. I released my boot grip, kicked off the wall with explosive force from Phantom Step, and launched sideways like a human missile. Moved 10 meters in a blink. The spot I'd been standing on got absolutely pulverized by incoming rocks. While dust and debris clouded the air, I silently reattached to the wall on the opposite side. The mammoths were still firing boulders at the dust cloud where I used to be, completely unaware I'd relocated. My silent movement meant they had zero clue. Time to end this circus. I locked onto the boss. With my tasting breath and weak point detection running together, I could see its vulnerabilities glowing like a cheat sheet. 3 arrows. Rapid fire. First arrow cracked through its legendary rock skin armor. Second drilled into the muscle underneath. Third blew open a wound the size of a soup bowl. The Lord lost it. No more commanding from the back lines. This was personal now. Its massive body launched into the air. Yes, launched, glowing with some kind of earth magic levitation spell. Magnetic hovering or something. A flying mammoth. A flying mammoth. How is that fair? It wasn't flying high, but combined with that trunk reach, it could absolutely swap me off my wall. The trunk swept toward me, cutting off every dodge angle. And it opened its mouth and blasted me with a gravity wave that made my body feel 10 times heavier. My Phantom Step turned sluggish. Limbs like lead. No escape route. Trunk incoming like a battering ram. Fine. Plan B. I dropped my bow, reached for my hip, and pulled a short sword. Not just any short sword, my repulsion blade. Special effect. On unsheathing, it creates a high-pressure force field that violently pushes everything within 3 meters away. 12-hour cooldown. One shot. I drew the blade directly into the path of that incoming trunk. Boom. Space itself screamed. An invisible wall of raw repulsive force detonated outward. The mammoth's trunk slammed into nothing and got launched backward. The entire 2-story mammoth lord, mid-air, mind you, got yeeted back to the ground like someone hit the undo button on gravity. It crashed with a sound that probably registered on seismographs 3 floors up. Meanwhile, Newton's third law had some opinions about me. Equal and opposite reaction meant I got launched in the other direction like a pinball, rocketing toward the ceiling at ridiculous speed. Goodbye. Most people would be panicking while hurtling uncontrollably through the air. Me? I grabbed my bow mid-flight, perfectly balanced in 0G because my body coordination is frankly disgusting at this point. Below me, the mammoth lord was flat on its back in stun lock. Giant belly fully exposed. Softest, most vulnerable part of its body just right there. Helpless, like a turtle that fell off a table. And I had a very special arrow already knocked. Enchanted with a little something called explosion is pure art. I grinned, floating in the darkness near the ceiling, aiming straight down at that big soft belly. Hey, you like fireworks? The dust settled. The mammoth lord lay dead like a collapsed building. Around it, 7 or 8 level 2 mammoths were scattered like bowling pins. Some I'd sniped earlier. Most got wrecked by the explosion's shockwave. Collateral damage. Oops. So here's what I've been up to for the past 2 weeks. Absolutely no chill. After visiting Myra's enchanting shop and learning that professional enchanting costs more than my entire net worth, my wallet politely suggested I just use my own cheat system instead. So I became a grinding machine. Floors 3 and 4. Every day, killing level 2 monsters like it was my 9-to-5 job. The result? I upgraded everything. New bow, black obsidian Hawkeye bow. Enchanted with Hawkeye mark. Every arrow that hits a target leaves an invisible magic stamp on the wound. Hit them again. The new arrow detonates all previous marks at once, with damage multiplying per stack. Basically, the more I shoot you, the worse your day gets. Exponentially. I also enchanted a bundle of steel arrows with explosion effects. The Mammoth Lord got the full combo treatment. Stacked marks plus explosive arrow equals 1 very dead elephant. Compared to my embarrassing near-death fight against the Anteater, I just soloed a level 3 boss and its entire gang after doing proper homework. Growth arc? Complete. Best part? From the outside, I looked like a nobody. Gray, dusty armor. Matte black bow. Zero magical glow anywhere. Thanks to the Shadow Veil oil coating every piece of my gear, all my enchantments were completely invisible. I was walking around looking like a broke rookie who wandered too deep by accident. while actually being armed to the teeth with enchanted everything. The ultimate catfish build. Looks like a level 1 noob. Hits like a max level raid boss. Also, showing up covered in shiny enchanted gear when you're a no-name ranger is basically wearing a sign that says, ROB me and ask questions later. Stealth isn't just for combat. Alright, time for everyone's favorite part. Looting the corpse. I rubbed my hands together and walked up to the Mammoth Lord. This was a genuine level 3 boss, with earth magic specialization and gravity manipulation powers. The loot had to be good. I pressed my palm against its still warm trunk. Blue enchantment acquired. Weight manipulation. Weight manipulation? What does that do? No time to study it here. This area wasn't exactly safe. I started butchering the mammoth like a professional. Each tusk was worth dozens of gold coins. The earth element magic core from its heart was premium stuff that earth mages would fight over. I was elbow deep in mammoth, happily carving away like the world's most enthusiastic butcher. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Armor plates clinking. Very quiet, very deliberate. Coming from behind me. They thought they were being sneaky. Adorable. My breathing technique painted their smell signature in my brain like a GPS map. Sweat, metal, and a hint of blood. 5 people. 3 in front, 2 flanking from the sides. Breathing steady and controlled. Professionals. I didn't turn around. But my short sword quietly flipped to a reverse grip. My muscles locked up like coiled springs, and my other hand casually drifted toward my quiver, where I still had explosive arrows loaded. To them, I probably looked like an oblivious idiot crouching over a carcass. Exactly how I wanted it. Nice work, friend. A deep voice broke the silence, and 5 figures stepped out from behind the stalactites. The leader was a middle-aged guy in full-plate armor with a great sword on his back and a scar running from his eyebrow to his chin, the kind of face that says, I've seen things, and most of them tried to kill me. Behind him, a female mage with a staff, a halfling rogue, a shield-bearing warrior, and a priest in white robes from the Church of Light. This was a stacked party. A mage and a healer? That's in-game team composition. Their gear quality and general vibe screamed experienced veterans, probably gold-rank adventurers. Not the kind of people who hang out on the easy floors. All 5 were staring at the mammoth corpse with barely hidden shock. Scarface, the captain, scanned the battlefield. The massive blast crater in the mammoth's belly. The dozens of arrow holes peppered across the cave walls. Then his eyes settled on my back, and I could practically feel his threat assessment going up. I stood up slowly, didn't put away my weapons, gave them a calm look while my left hand rested, casually, on my quiver full of enchanted explosives. Need something? Down here, the Adventurers Guild technically bans PvP. But when you're standing next to a level 3 boss's worth of loot, technically, is a very thin word. People have done worse for less. No misunderstanding here, friend. Scarface read my body language instantly. The guy was a veteran. He recognized the post-kill intensity radiating off me. I just murdered an apex predator, and I have plenty of fight left, energy. He raised both hands, palms out, and stopped his team from advancing. We're 3rd squad of the Iron Oath Adventuring Company. Name's Gru. He nodded at the mammoth. Heard the commotion nearby, and came to investigate. He flashed a company badge from his belt. We're not here for your loot. Anyone who can solo something like this is someone Iron Oath wants as a friend, not an enemy. Then he paused. I's getting that look. You know the one. I'm about to pitch you something, look. We've got a big job lined up. Interested? Level 5 camp. Scarface, sorry, Gru, drew a dirt map with a stick and pitched me the job. Level 7. 4-star boss monster. The Bone Tyrant. Apparently this thing is made from centuries of dead adventurers and monsters. All their bones and grudges mashed together into one nightmare creature. Mid-tier level 4 strength. 5 level 3 undead lieutenants. And an unlimited army of skeleton soldiers. Gru had assembled 20 people across 4 teams for this raid. Let me break down the roster. Team 1. Iron Oath. That's Gru's squad. Classic balanced party. Tank, shield, mage, healer, rogue. They'd hold the front line. Solid. Team 2. Dawn Church Squad. 2 holy paladins, 2 exorcist priests, 1 monk. These guys exist specifically to delete undead. They brought holy water and magic scrolls. The skeleton army? Not a problem with these guys around. Church people are a bit spiritually uptight, but when fighting undead, You want the religious fanatics on your side. Team 3, Red Viper. 3 Berserkers, 1 Fire Mage, 1 Rogue. All offense, 0 chill. Described as money-crazed lunatics. But lunatics who hit hard. Pay them enough, and they'll fight anything. Team 4, Black Phoenix. 2 Shield Bearers, 2 Rangers, 1 Warrior. Defense Specialists. I noticed Gru's face twitched a tiny bit when he mentioned Black Phoenix. Filed that away for later. Join us, Gru said. Extra 10% pay. First pick on any level 3 loot along the way. The Bone Tyrant's drops get split by committee. Honestly, I didn't care about money or loot rights. What I cared about was getting my hands on a level 4 monster's enchantment. That's the real prize. But I wasn't going to jump in blind. Give me a few days. Back in Coldwind City, first order of business, research. I hit up the intelligence shops, the taverns, bought drinks for some washed-up rogues. Classic information gathering. Everything checked out with what Gru told me, but with some juicy details he'd left out. Iron Oath, great reputation. Gru is basically a tragic hero, grinding dungeons non-stop to pay for his daughter's medical treatment. Honest to a fault. Sometimes too honest, which gets him screwed over. But trustworthy? Absolutely. Dawn Church, strong fighters, slightly judgmental about everything. But when undead show up, they go full exterminator mode. Reliable where it counts. Red Viper, greedy psychopaths, but professional greedy psychopaths. Money buys loyalty. Good enough. Black Phoenix, here's the problem. Those guys started as scavengers. A drunk old thief told me over his third ale. Their specialty is surviving. Last time they teamed up with another group, when things got dangerous, their shield guys didn't protect the mages. They covered their own rangers so they could retreat first. If you work with them, don't ever show them your back. Everyone calls them the Grey Rats Squad, the team abandoning specialists. But here's the thing. This actually made me more comfortable, not less. A known risk isn't a risk. If I didn't know their reputation, I might get blindsided. But since I know they're professional cowards who'll bail at the first sign of trouble, I can plan around it. Use them as distractions. Living decoys. Expendable meat shields who don't even know they're meat shields. The real heavy lifting comes from Iron Oath and the Church Squad anyway. The Grey Rats are background characters at best. Oh, and before heading out, I had a date with my new blue enchantment. Weight manipulation from the Mammoth Lord. I thought about where to put it. My gear was fully loaded with green enchantments already, but gear breaks and gets replaced. Skills are permanent investments. My perception skills were covered. Time to beef up my close combat. I fused it into blind fighting swordsmanship. The skill transformed. Zero strike heavy slash, LV.7 when swinging. Activate, 0 mode. Weapon weight drops to literally 0. Speed becomes absurd. The instant the blade touches the target, switch to heavy slash. Weapon gains 500% bonus mass. Also, you can now sense gravity disturbances so precisely that a falling needle would register on your radar. I tested it. Drew the sword and swung. There was no sound. The blade moved so fast it outran the sound. The sonic boom arrived after the sword stopped. Like thunder after lightning. Except the lightning was my arm. Then I tried hitting the corner of the oak table in my room. Activated weight mode on contact. The table corner didn't get cut. It got deleted. Exploded into sawdust like it was hit by an invisible wrecking ball. 0 weight for speed. Maximum weight for impact. Fast enough to break the sound barrier. Heavy enough to pulverize wood on contact. Could I put this on my arrows too? Oh, the possibilities. 3 days later, I walked into the copper furnace inn. Gru was eating with his team. I sat down across from him. I'm in. One condition though. Don't need extra pay. Don't need first pick on loot. I just want to roam the middle zone freely. No frontline duty where I'd get swarmed. No back line where I'd be useless. The middle ring, where I could shoot, dodge, reposition, and do my shadow ghost thing without anyone getting in my way. Gru smiled with relief. That's exactly where we planned to put you. I smiled back. Level 4 Lord. The Bone Tyrant. A walking undead-themed enchantment dispenser. Everyone else saw a terrifying boss monster that needed 20 elite fighters to take down. I saw a piñata full of blue-tier loot. Let's crack it open. The pre-raid meeting was held in the basement of the Holy Light Cathedral, because apparently when you're planning to kill a mega undead, you do it surrounded by expensive incense and old parchment. The whole room reeked of, we have budget. Everyone sat around a fancy black walnut table. Let me introduce the cast of this circus. Seat 1. A golden-haired pretty boy in polished silver armor, the church's paladin. Hair perfect, posture perfect, smile so holy it could cure diseases. Would have been impressive if he didn't occasionally look at everyone else like we were mud on his boots. Across from him, the Red Viper captain, feet up on the chair, picking his teeth with a dagger, radiating, "I will stab you for fun," energy. Rumor says this guy once attacked his own employer mid-contract. Delightful. Then there was the Black Phoenix representative, a tiny, twitchy man drowning in an oversized gray robe. His legs hadn't stopped bouncing since he sat down, and his beady little eyes kept ping-ponging between the paladin's coin purse and the Red Viper's gold necklace. Classic gray rat behavior. And then there was me, at the very end of the table, sipping free holy water. And lastly, this is Victor, a ranger. I stood up, nodded politely, sat back down. Maximum effort. The paladin gave me the bare minimum head nod. Knight's courtesy, I think they call it. Red Viper snorted like I wasn't worth robbing. The gray rat guy glanced at me twice, decided I had nothing valuable on me, and moved on. Being invisible to powerful people? That's not an insult. That's safety. Please continue ignoring me. I insist. Gru also introduced the logistics team. A kid named Carl with glasses and a professional smile who promised we'd have hot coffee and clean shirts even on level 7 of a death dungeon. I immediately decided Carl was the most important person in this entire operation. Then came the actual battle plan. Phase 1. Clear the trash mobs, build a forward camp. Phase 2. Hunt down the 5 level 3 death knights guarding the boss, hopefully finishing by day 4. Phase 3. The final fight at the Bone Altar, a structure that constantly heals the Bone Tyrant and summons reinforcements. Iron Oath, Black Phoenix, and the church team would pin the boss down while Red Viper had 5 minutes to destroy the altar. And Victor, you roam the middle, fill in gaps as needed. Sure, I agreed instantly. Free roamer is code for do whatever you want. If things go smoothly, I basically get to stand around looking busy while everyone else does the work. The ideal job. On the way out, a church priest ambushed me with a recruitment pitch. Brother Victor, I sense a righteous aura about you. Have you considered joining the Church of Holy Light? I made the most pious face I could manage and drew a symbol over my heart. It was actually a hand sign from an anime I watched in my previous life, but he didn't need to know that. Praise the light, I said reverently. But I'm too wild and free for your sacred halls. I'd only tarnish the purity. Maybe next time. Definitely next time. Then I slithered into the crowd like an eel and vanished, leaving the priest standing there looking confused. Sorry, buddy, organized religion isn't in my build path. Over the next few days, Gru organized joint training sessions at a field north of the city. Practice formations, simulate the boss fight, get everyone familiar with each other. I performed at a solid C-. Deliberately. Hit some targets. Missed a few on purpose. Looked competent but forgettable. The paladin continued ignoring me. Red Viper mentally categorized me as cannon fodder who'll draw aggro while the real fighters work. Exactly where I wanted to be on everyone's threat assessment. Nowhere. Only Gru gave me a look during a break. One of those, I know you're sandbagging, but I won't say anything. Looks. Smart man. Between training sessions, I had a shopping list for anti-undead supplies. Holy water, blessed herbs, the usual zombie apocalypse prep kit. I also squeezed in a side quest. There was a level 3 monster on floor 5 called a Mind Beguiler that I'd been eyeing for a while. Scouted it twice, mapped its patterns, then went in for the kill after one training session. Got a blue enchantment, cognitive bias. Mental attack type, fits perfectly with what this creature did during our fight. The thing kept messing with my head, making my arrows miss even after I'd taken resistance potions. Nasty psychic tricks. I knew exactly where to put this one. My old stealth skill, noise camouflage, had been with me since day 1 at Old John's cabin. It carried me through the early game, but lately, every monster worth fighting could see right through it. The skill was becoming a participation trophy. Time for an upgrade. Background art, LV.8 becoming the background is the highest form of stealth. You become a cognitive invisible person. Guards counting heads will accidentally skip you. Enemies scanning the area will look right past you without stopping. Even if you attack someone, as long as it's not a killing blow, Their aggro toward you fades rapidly, because it's nearly impossible to stay angry at a shadow that barely registers as existing. Read that again. I can literally stab someone and they'll forget to be mad at me. Their brain just files me under unimportant background noise and moves on. With a level 4 boss fight ahead and a team of known backstabbers watching my flanks, this skill was the most perfectly timed upgrade in the history of perfectly timed upgrades. The Bone Tyrant won't be able to focus on me. The Gray Rats won't think I'm worth betraying. Nobody will notice what I'm doing until it's already done. I'm not just invisible anymore. I'm forgettable. And in a room full of monsters and maniacs, being forgettable is the most powerful thing you can be. Dawn. Fog still hanging in the air. 28 people lined up at the dungeon entrance like the world's most dangerous field trip. Let me describe this beautiful mess of a team. The church squad rolled up looking like they were attending a royal wedding, not a dungeon raid. 2 paladins in matching silver-white armor covered in fancy engravings. Each suit apparently costs as much as Blackstone Town's entire quarterly taxes. The armor's only flaws are that it weighs a ton and costs a fortune to maintain. Otherwise, flawless. Their chest emblems were reflecting sunlight, so hard I nearly went blind. Behind them, 2 exorcist priests meditating with golden staffs, and 1 barefoot monk in rough cloth carrying a massive black iron cross on his back. This guy hadn't spoken a single word. Ever. I think silence is his whole personality. Red Viper showed up looking like they'd escaped from prison that morning. 3 berserkers, shirtless except for some leather patches over vital organs, muscles covered in scars like a roadmap of bad decisions. Their weapons, axes and flails, had permanent bloodstains that apparently don't wash out. The fire mage was juggling actual fireballs for fun, and their rogue was flickering in and out of shadows, spinning a poison dagger like a fidget spinner. Black Phoenix, the Gray Rats, looked exactly how you'd expect professional cowards to look. 2 tower shield tanks, 2 rangers, 1 greatsword warrior. Gear was worn but practical. Every scratch on their equipment told the story of running away successfully. Iron Oath was doing Iron Oath things. Gru polishing his shield, his 5-man squad organizing potions and scrolls like responsible adults. And then the logistics crew. Carl, the Glasses Kid, was commanding 6 support workers loading up 3 tamed pack dragons. Gentle, ox-strong lizard beasts carrying tents, alchemy fuel, and, bless this man, beer. For morale purposes. Carl is my favorite person on this expedition, and I will protect him with my life. Carl started taking attendance, checking names off his list with a feather pen. Iron Oath, 5, check. Red Viper, 5, check. Black Phoenix, 5, check. Church, 5, check. My team, including myself, 7, check. Plus that one guy. He looked around, confused. Where's Victor? I swear I just saw him. I was standing 2 meters in front of him. Eating a cookie. Had been there for 5 minutes. My background art skill had gone fully passive without me even trying. To everyone's brains, I'd blended into the scenery, just another piece of the landscape, like the dragon's leg I was leaning against, or the gravel on the ground, or the morning fog. I'm right here. I waved my cookie. WHOA. Carl jumped so hard, he almost dropped his pen. When did you? How long have you been? 5 minutes. Since you counted, Red Viper. His brain visibly buffered for a second, then auto-corrected the shock into, oh, I probably just wasn't paying attention, and moved on. The moment he turned away, I could literally feel his memory of me fading, getting filed into the mental folder labeled miscellaneous background objects. Beautiful. This skill is broken. The march down began, and it was a long one. 6 floors of dungeon to push through before reaching level 7. Red Viper took point, probably to show off in front of the church. Their berserkers were human bulldozers. 0 defense, pure aggression. They charged into every group of cave monsters screaming like lunatics, axes turning creatures into flying body parts. Ha! Die! 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 Their fire mage was cackling behind them, lobbing explosion fireballs that turned dark tunnels into daylight. It was like watching someone play a video game on easy mode with cheat codes, except the cheat code was, be completely insane. The church priests dabbed their faces with handkerchiefs to avoid splashing monster blood, looking disgusted. Their paladins didn't even draw their swords once. Using holy power on low-level trash mobs was apparently beneath them. like asking a surgeon to put on a band-aid. Black Phoenix did the absolute minimum. Shot a few arrows when a monster slipped through, poked something with a sword once or twice. Perfect embodiment of quiet quitting. Their captain actually shrugged and said, "Red Viper wants to show off? Let them." Truly inspiring work ethic. Iron Oath filled the gaps, making sure nothing threatened the supply train. And me? I was riding on the back of a pack dragon, sitting in the pile of supplies like a bag of potatoes. Nobody noticed. Not the handler walking next to the dragon. Not the dragon itself. It probably thought I was a slightly heavier sack of grain. This was my first ever group mission in this world, against a level 4 boss that was way above my solo capability. Every drop of energy saved now could mean the difference between life and death later. Riding a dinosaur while everyone else fought monsters wasn't laziness. It was strategy. I sat cross-legged on the dragon's back, watching Red Viper's berserker chop an ogre into 3 pieces, and thought, his swing mechanics are really sloppy. Too much shoulder, not enough hip rotation. Monster Combat Critic. New career option. By noon, we reached level 7's base camp, a huge natural cavern glowing with blue moss, smelling like ancient bone dust and existential dread. Halt. Rest and regroup. Gru's voice echoed off the walls. Carl's logistics crew was magnificent. Within minutes, supplies unloaded, smokeless stoves lit, pre-made meat soup heated from vacuum-sealed clay jars, served with rock-hard rye bread. It tasted like mediocrity, but down here, hot food is a 5-star experience. The church people, naturally, did not eat with the commoners. The paladins pulled out silver cutlery from their personal bags and ate white bread with holy water like they were dining at a palace banquet. On level 7 of a death dungeon, surrounded by the smell of ancient corpses, with a salad fork, Red Viper chugged booze and loudly bragged about their kills, their eyes occasionally wandering to the expensive jewelry on the paladin's armor. I could practically see the mental math happening. How much is that pendant worth? Could I take him? Black Phoenix cleaned their weapons with the enthusiasm of people already planning their escape route. I sipped my hot soup and thought, this alliance is held together with tape and prayers. If we hit a real crisis, half these people will stab the other half before the monster even gets a turn. I felt a twinge of regret about accepting this job. Maybe we should have done a trial run on a level 3 boss first to see if this group could actually function without imploding. Too late for that now. After the break, Gru banged his shield. Everyone, gear check. 500 meters ahead is the corridor of silence. Beyond that, the Bone Tyrant's territory. The mood changed instantly. Like someone flipped a switch from camping trip to we might die. Even the Red Viper berserkers stopped laughing and quietly put on their helmets. The church priests began chanting long blessing prayers, golden halos settling over everyone. Strength buff, mental resistance, holy shield, the whole holy starter pack. Move out, tight formation this time. Paladins in front, blazing with sunlight-level holy aura, cutting through the darkness. Red Viper and Black Phoenix on the wings. Iron Oath in the center. Me, drifting somewhere in the middle back, touching the 3 specially enchanted arrows in my quiver. We stepped into the silence. Stepping into the Bone Tyrant's territory, I finally understood why everyone says church paladins are the ultimate anti-undead weapon. This wasn't a battle. This was a cleaning service. Holy light shall guide our path. The 2 paladins were basically walking 1,000-watt floodlights. Their armor runes were cranked to maximum, and the holy radiation was so intense it turned the rotting corpse smell into an ozone tang, like a sacred air freshener. Skeleton soldiers crawling out of the walls and floor. They didn't even get to hiss before melting. Level 1 skeletons entering the 5-meter holy aura zone just crumbled, like stale crackers in a microwave. Level 2 ghouls lasted slightly longer, but one casual sword swing, no fancy technique, just holy water on the blade, sliced through them like hot butter through more butter. So this is the power of money. I mean, faith. I hung back, watching the trail of bone dust behind us, genuinely impressed. And slightly jealous. Red Viper's berserkers were sulking. They'd come here to fight, and instead they were walking behind the paladins carrying axes they hadn't used, looking like bodyguards at a parade. Their entire purpose had been reduced to decorative muscle. The only action I got was lazily popping a few arrows into straggler zombies trying to sneak up on the supply train. Barely had to aim. This was the easiest workday of my career. We camped that evening on a dry, rocky plateau. Carl's crew had hot fires going in 30 minutes. Church priests carved warning spell circles around the perimeter. Standard stuff. At dinner, while the rest of us ate meat and drank, I peeked through a gap in the church's pristine white tent and saw something that made my skin crawl. The silent monk, the barefoot cross-carrying guy who hadn't said a single word, was kneeling before a small idol, shirtless, whipping himself with a barbed flail. Each lash drew blood, which immediately healed with a faint golden glow. Pain is salvation, flesh is prison. His voice was raspy and fanatical. I closed the tent flap and decided I'd seen enough religion for one lifetime. Night watch was arranged with maximum paranoia. Every shift had one person each from Iron Oath, Red Viper, and Black Phoenix. Three-way mutual suspicion. Nobody could pull anything funny because two other factions were watching. I crawled into my tent, wrapped myself in a blanket, and appeared to fall deeply asleep. In reality, I extended my consciousness through my forest communication skill. No trees underground, but there were tons of mutant fungi and moss covering everything. My awareness spread through the damp moss network, covering 200 meters around camp. Every corpse beetle crawling past, every water drop from a stalactite, even the Black Phoenix Ranger grinding his teeth in his sleep, all crystal clear in my mind. Nothing suspicious. Good. Day 2. Still steamrolling. Around 10 in the morning, we finally hit something that fought back. Death Knight. The scout spotted it first. At the end of the tunnel, a massive armored figure on a skeleton horse, blue soul fire burning in its eye sockets, dragging a giant horse-cleaving saber that threw sparks along the ground. Level 3 undead. A Death Knight. The kind of thing that can single-handedly wipe out a small village. Formation, Gru shouted, shield up. What followed was the most unfair beatdown I've ever witnessed. Both paladins flanked it, two greatswords slamming into its shoulder armor simultaneously. Before it could recover, Red Viper's fire mage, who'd apparently been charging a spell this whole time, launched a fully loaded fire explosion directly into its face. Boom. This poor level 3 monster didn't even get to deliver a villain speech. Its skeleton horse shattered into pieces. One arm got ripped off. But the thing was tough. Its saber got knocked away, and without even looking, it raised its remaining hand. The saber flew back to it like a magnet. It glanced at its horse, which was slowly reassembling but needed time, then charged straight at a paladin with a one-armed overhead swing. Holy light stands with me. The paladin roared and met it head-on. They locked blades, evenly matched for a brief moment. Then the priest in the back landed a paralysis spell at the perfect instant. The second paladin seized the opening and cut the Death Knight clean in half at the waist. Fight over. Now, here's where I did something embarrassing but necessary. The senior priest raised his staff to cast a purification spell and turn the twitching bones into permanent ash. Standard cleanup. Except a certain gray, dusty, completely forgettable ranger had somehow appeared right next to the dying Death Knight without anyone noticing. Me. Brother Victor, what are you doing? The priest frowned. Holy energy paused mid-cast. If we don't purify this immediately, it'll reassemble. Praise the light. I put on my most sincere village idiot face and rubbed my hands together, physically blocking the priest's line of fire to the bone pile. This is my first time seeing a high-level undead up close. Look at this exquisite bone structure. The artistic craftsmanship of this armor. Could I please examine it for just 1 second? It'll help me understand enemy weaknesses better. Just one look. Please. This excuse was so bad it should have been illegal. Every adventurer nearby was looking at me like I was a country bumpkin who'd never left his farm. The priest's face said, "Is this guy serious? Fine. Make it quick." He stepped back, clearly worried my stupidity might be contagious. Thank you. I turned around, back to everyone, and slapped my palm on the Death Knight's still twitching helmet. Flash. Blue enchantment acquired. Only swords and armor must never be betrayed. All done. Wonderful specimen. Praised the light's generosity. I jumped away and gave the priest a big thumbs up like I'd just had the best museum visit of my life. The priest shook his head with visible disappointment in humanity, tapped his staff, and a pillar of divine light vaporized the bones into ash. Sorry, Mr. Death Knight. You fought bravely, but your real contribution to this world is becoming my next enchantment upgrade. Rest in pieces. The moment I saw the Death Knight enchantment from day 2, I knew where it was going. Slapped it onto my equipment resonance skill. New skill. You and I are one in this moment. Yes, that's the actual name. My gear and I now share feelings. When I pull the bowstring back, I don't feel tension, I feel the bow's excitement. When I oil and polish my equipment, I can feel it purring with happiness. My weapons went from tools to emotional support partners. I'm not going to talk about this with anyone. Ever. The next 2 days were basically copy-paste of day 2. The team steamrolled everything. 1 level 3 undead per day, like clockwork. Day 3's monster was a lich, an undead spellcaster whose soul scream attack nearly ripped my consciousness out of my body from 100 meters away. Fun times. Got a soul echo enchantment from it, which I fed to my plant communication skill. New skill, forest sound echo. I could now link my consciousness not just through plants, but through insects, small animals, and birds too. My mental radar went from a flat 2D map to full 3D surround sound. Basically upgraded from Google Maps to a military satellite. Day 4 brought a dual-wielding Death Knight on a skeleton horse. This one was actually scary, blazing through the battlefield at high speed, slicing through formations, dodging everything. I shot at it twice from the shadows. It dodged both. My third arrow I curved mid-flight with wind energy, and it still blocked with its swords. Show off. Eventually the paladins and priests tag-teamed it down, but not before it left the first scratches on those supposedly invincible church armor sets. Respect. And yes, every single day I performed my curious country boy touches the dead monster routine. Day 1, everyone was confused. Day 2, everyone was annoyed. Day 4, nobody even cared anymore. Oh, the weird guy's fondling bones again. Just let him, kids from the countryside. What can you do? Perfect. Being written off as a harmless weirdo was the best cover story I never planned. Now, the dual-wielding knight's enchantment. I expected something speed-related. This thing was fast. Already had plans to upgrade my Phantom Step. Instead I'm operating on a higher plane, blue. The Death Knights have to pass a cringe exam before getting hired. I stared at this ridiculous name, trying to figure out what it actually did. The knight was fast, sure, but this enchantment didn't feel like speed. The thing is, once you fuse a blue-tier enchantment into a skill, it's basically locked in permanently. I couldn't afford to put a speed boost on an eye-related skill and end up attacking enemies with eyelash-generated tornadoes. I replayed the fight in my head. This knight with just a horse and 2 swords had gone toe-to-toe with 2 church paladins and actually had the upper hand. We only won after destroying the horse first. Classic, shoot the horse before the rider, strategy, works in every world. Every genre, every century. The knight's real power wasn't raw speed. It was reading its opponents. Predicting. Countering before counters happened. Combine that with the edgy name. I fused it into my weak point detection skill. New skill. Technique. My prediction surpasses yours. LV.7. You think I'm going left, so you block right? Too bad. I predicted your prediction. By watching microscopic changes in an opponent's bones and muscles, you can essentially predict their next move before they make it. The cringy enchantment created a cringy skill name. My perfectly normal weak point detection is gone forever, replaced by this. Also, wait. This is basically the Sharingan. Do I have a secret brother in this world? One who abandoned the village and went rogue? Will my eyes go blind if I use this too much? I was spiraling into anime flashbacks when Gru called for camp. Day 4 evening. Final camp. 1 kilometer from the Bone Tyrant's throne room. Tomorrow morning, the big fight. I sat by the fire, cleaning my bow, and felt uneasy. This has been way too smooth. 1 level 3 boss per day, appearing one at a time like they were taking turns. Like those cartoon villains who send their minions one by one instead of all at once. Based on every novel I read in my previous life. This is the part where the church secretly betrays everyone and uses our souls to summon an angel. Or Black Phoenix pulls some backstabbing scheme. But honestly, the church team had been murdering undead with the passion of someone on a personal vendetta. Their holy power against undead was so effective it was almost unfair. Level 3 monsters crumbled like wet paper. And Black Phoenix? I'd been watching them like a hawk for 4 days straight. Other than being lazy, They hadn't done a single suspicious thing, and realistically, they weren't strong enough to cause serious damage even if they tried. Red Viper had been trying to one-up the church and kill counts, which was kind of hilarious. Iron Oath was doing the steady middle management thing. Am I paranoid? Did I read too many betrayal novels? I scratched my head, genuinely confused. The whole trip had been as smooth as a school picnic. No infighting, no backstabbing, no secret plots. Just a harmless weirdo who touches dead things, surrounded by functional adults working together. Something about that felt deeply wrong. But maybe, just maybe, sometimes a dungeon raid is just a dungeon raid, right? The throne room was absolutely ridiculous. Dozens of massive pillars holding up a 100-meter ceiling, each carved with screaming ghost faces. And at the far end, a throne made entirely of bones, stacked so high it disappeared into the darkness above. Sitting on it was the Bone Tyrant. When it stood up, I almost broke my neck looking at it. 10 meters tall, every bone gleaming like polished metal. Its eye sockets didn't have the usual flickery ghost candle thing. These burned with deep red lava. It held a bone sword wider than a door, and just casually waving it created enough wind pressure to sting my face from 15 meters away. Insects. That wasn't sound. That was a psychic scream directly into everyone's souls. Super welcoming. Don't freeze. Stick to the plan, Gru roared, slamming his tower shield into the ground. Red Viper. Take your team. Destroy the altar on the right. Priest Fine, support them. Cut off its healing. Red Viper's captain licked his lips like Christmas came early. His berserkers charged toward the glowing bone altar like rabid boars who'd just been uncaged. Priest Fine reluctantly followed with his staff, clearly annoyed about taking orders from mercenaries, but understanding the bigger picture. Everyone else, hold the line. Gru activated some kind of ultimate defense skill and planted himself like a mountain. The Bone Tyrant's massive sword came down. Boom. Gru sank half a foot into solid stone. Blood leaked from his mouth. But he held. This absolute madman tanked a hit from a level 4 boss and stayed standing. Then something unexpected happened. The silent monk, Mr. Self-Whipping Barefoot Cross-Carrier, suddenly exploded into action. His scarred torso, covered in self-inflicted wounds from 4 nights of ritual flagellation, started glowing. Every wound lit up with blazing red-gold holy light. Suffering is strength, he whispered it like a prayer, then ripped that massive black iron cross off his back. The thing I'd assumed was some kind of holy relic or prayer focus, and swung it like a warhammer straight into the Bone Tyrant's kneecap. Crack. Bone shattered. The tyrant screamed. A massive chunk of its death aura got burned away by the holy impact. This guy is a berserker disguised as a priest, using a cross as a sledgehammer. And somehow this is the most religious thing I've ever seen, with the monk tanking and dealing damage simultaneously. DPS main tank, the rarest and most terrifying build. Everyone else found room to breathe. Skills started flying like fireworks. The 2 paladins began chanting something ancient and dramatic. Light has never left. It merely awaited assembly. In the name of dawn, summon the steed of holy light. Space shuddered. Golden sparks swarmed together like fireflies on caffeine, forming a fully armored warhorse made of pure concentrated holy energy. Rune-covered light armor, hooves that purified corrupted ground into white crystal on contact. The paladin mounted it, and his power level skyrocketed, man and horse fusing into a mobile fortress of radiance. In the name of dawn, judgment, no running start needed. The light horse screamed like a war horn and launched forward, leaving a golden streak dozens of meters long. Not a charge, a falling meteor, slamming into the tyrant with enough force to stagger a building. Meanwhile, I did my thing. Background art at full power, drifting around the edges of the battlefield like a ghost who lost its haunting assignment. My new prediction eye technique let me see exactly where the tyrant's joint gaps were, and I peppered them with arrows. Not much damage, but maximum annoyance, like a mosquito you can hear but can't find. I successfully disrupted several of its power-up attacks just by being irritating. Altar down, 3 minutes. That's all Red Viper needed. The Fire Mage, 3 Berserkers, and Priest Fine basically performed a demolition job on the bone altar. It collapsed in a heap of dust. The tyrant's eye flames visibly dimmed. Its healing stopped. The cracked knee stayed cracked. Now, surrounded, Gru seized the moment. Red Viper's squad rushed back to rejoin the main force. Victory was basically guaranteed. This top-tier raid team had the perfect combo: tactics, individual power, and elemental advantage. Even a level 4 lord was just a matter of time. Guess I was paranoid for nothing. I actually felt guilty. I'd been running maximum stealth and watching Black Phoenix's every move for 4 days, expecting betrayal at any second. But they were actually fighting. No slacking. Full effort. I mentally prepared an apology, then my instincts screamed, not from the front, from behind, from the direction of the supply camp, where the logistics crew was. Before I could even open my mouth to warn anyone, a beam of light. No, a beam of anti light. Pure, absolute, reality-devouring black. It erupted from where the supply camp was and lanced into the throne room without a sound. It was so fast that sound couldn't keep up. It pierced through one of Black Phoenix's rangers, then bent midair and hit their captain and a shield bearer. No explosions, no booms, just a sizzling hiss as flesh was instantly evaporated by concentrated death energy. 3 down. The beam kept going, snaking through the formation like it had a shopping list. Iron Oath's mage, their priest, grew, the shield bearer standing in front of them. Their upper bodies simply disappeared, like someone took an eraser to them. Clean cuts, lower halves still standing for a horrible second before toppling, spraying black blood. Then the church priest in the middle of the formation, mouth still frozen in mid-chant. Everything below the throat turned to ash. 1 second. 8 people, dead. The 2 paladins at the front survived. Their holy barriers absorbed the residual energy, barely. They got pushed back, but held. The bone tyrant stopped fighting. Its broken jaw clattered open and shut in what I can only describe as laughter. I was pressed flat against a stone pillar, cold sweat soaking through every layer of clothing I owned. Because walking in from the supply camp entrance, stepping over what used to be our support team, was Carl. Logistics Carl. Clipboard Carl. Hot coffee on level 7 Carl. The guy with the glasses and the professional smile. Except now his feather pen was gone. His parchment checklist was gone. In his hand was a black staff radiating an aura of pure death that made my skin want to crawl off my body and leave. The tip was still smoking. Oh well, 6 quasi-professionals as sacrificial offerings. The extracted power was a bit lacking, I'm afraid. He looked at the 8 corpses on the ground with the mild disappointment of someone who miscalculated a grocery budget. Then he looked up at the rest of us, the survivors frozen in shock, and smiled. Not the professional customer service smile I'd seen for 4 days. Something elegant, something cruel, something that said, I've been pretending to be your butler, and now the game is over. So yeah, it wasn't the church. It wasn't Black Phoenix. It was the logistics guy. The guy who packed our lunches and counted our heads. The guy whose name I almost forgot because he was so boring. The caterer just killed 8 people with 1 spell, and he's apologizing for it not being strong enough. I was wrong about one thing earlier. Sometimes a dungeon raid is not just a dungeon raid. And I was right about one thing. It was too smooth. The air in the throne room turned to ice. Carl, the guy who was literally handing out soup and counting backpacks 12 hours ago, was now elegantly holding a smoking death staff and bowing to the bone tyrant like he was asking it to dance at a ball. He drew some kind of evil symbol in the air with the grace of a gentleman at a royal party, then spoke in this creepy ancient language dripping with disturbing devotion. Lord Isgwell, this is my offering of sincerity. The bone tyrant sat back down on its throne like a king accepting tribute from a servant. Satisfied growl. Then it raised one bony finger. The ground exploded on both sides of the hall. 2 new bone altars erupted from the floor, bigger and nastier than the one Red Viper just destroyed. On the left altar, a lich floated in black fog surrounded by screaming green ghosts. On the right, a death knight on a nightmare horse, cursed runes flowing down its blade. So the altar we spent 3 minutes demolishing? That was the appetizer altar. The real ones were hidden underground this whole time. My eye was twitching so hard it could power a small generator. Then Carl turned around and looked directly at the surviving church priest, Priest Shane, with the warmest, most neighborly uncle smile imaginable. Shane, why the scared face? He spread his arms, his black cloak billowing dramatically behind him like dark wings. You know better than anyone how fake the light really is. Come join the eternal night ladies' embrace. Say yes, and I guarantee you survive today's ceremony, plus powers beyond your imagination. I can even get you a bishop position. The lady wouldn't even break a sweat. He glanced at the bodies of Iron Oath and the church priest on the ground. I only need 5 dust of holy light. Got 2 already. 3 more, and I'm done. He was shopping for corpses. With a loyalty discount. You're dreaming. The paladin captain's voice cracked with rage. You're a crow. Crow. The most insulting name for dark mages who sell their souls to evil gods. They're like vultures. Wherever death shows up, they're already circling. Crow? How nostalgic. Carl shrugged like someone had called him by an old nickname. My brain was having its biggest, I told you so, moment in history. I knew it. I knew it. The second any world has churches and faith systems, there's always a secret evil church starting wars. Eternal night versus dawn? Could you be more obviously evil? It's right there in the name. But while my brain was screaming, my feet were already moving. Everyone was distracted by the Carl versus Paladin drama, so I activated background art and ghosted my way to a better position in the middle of the battlefield. Quick head count of survivors. 13 fighters left. Iron Oath. Nearly wiped. Only 1 rogue alive. Black Phoenix. 1 shield warrior and 1 ranger. The church squad. Mostly intact. Lost 1 priest. Red Viper. Untouched since they were at the far altar. The paladin captain made the call. Red Viper. And that ranger. Handle Carl. Everyone else. With me. Kill the tyrant. Once it's dead, the crow is nothing. The goddess protects us. Red Viper's captain wasn't about to argue. He knew Carl had set this whole trap, and running wasn't an option. His muscles inflated, red snakescale patterns crawling across his skin. Standard berserker power-up. Victor, cover me. 3 berserkers charged Carl like angry bulls. On it, I activated my prediction eyes. Carl's body deconstructed in my vision into muscles, bones, and magic circuits, like a walking anatomy textbook. The rogue reached Carl first, black lightning fast, poison dagger aimed at the throat. But Carl's shield wasn't normal. It was alive. The black barrier crawled up the dagger blade like sentient tar, latched onto the rogue's arm, and started withering it instantly. Skin turned black and papery in seconds. The rogue screamed. Carl smiled, raised his palm, and started charging a point-blank death bolt aimed between the rogue's terrified eyes. That's when my arrow arrived. I'd read his muscle movements with my prediction skill and shot before he even raised his hand. The arrow flew straight at his wrist joint, the one channeling the spell. Carl had to abort his kill shot and use the death bolt to intercept my arrow instead. The rogue scrambled away with his life. One arm basically dead, but still breathing. Carl's head snapped toward me. Those always squinted eyes were wide open now. The look wasn't, oh, a mosquito. It was, oh, a problem. I felt ice crawl down the back of my skull. The classic, a powerful mage just locked onto you, warning signal. Very uncomfortable. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. Before Carl could retaliate, the 3 berserkers were on him. 3 mountain-splitting axes coming down simultaneously. Annoying flies. Carl tapped his staff on the ground. Black mud erupted from the floor and formed shield-carrying dark guardians that blocked all 3 axes. Then he casually one-handed a shadow barrier that swallowed the fire mage's incoming fireball like it was a snack. A dark mage who could summon minions, project shields, fire death beams, wither flesh on contact, and counterspell attacks, while maintaining a polite smile. This man had been packing our lunches. The battlefield split into 2 nightmares. On my side, Red Viper plus me versus Carl. On the other side, the paladins, the monk, and whoever was left versus the bone tyrant and his 2 new level 3 bodyguards. I ducked behind a pillar, constantly repositioning, looking for shooting angles with my prediction eyes scanning everything. The rogue was done. That black tar curse on his arm had basically retired him permanently. 1 fighter down before we even started properly. On the other side of the hall, a massive crash. One of the new bone altars collapsed. Good news. Bad news. The Black Phoenix shield warrior and ranger who destroyed it were critically wounded, trading 1 altar for 2 maimed fighters. That math doesn't feel great. Bone dust and stench slapping me in the face. Classic dungeon ambience. Carl was over there fighting 3 berserkers and a fire mage like he was playing with toddlers. Hadn't even moved his feet. His robe didn't have a single wrinkle. This man was ironing his clothes mid-combat through sheer evil elegance. But I wasn't watching him. My eyes locked onto the last bone altar hundreds of meters away, where a paladin and Iron Oath surviving rogue were getting demolished by a Death Knight guarding it. Destroy the towers, then team fight. Basic strategy. Works in every game. I maxed out my movement skills, wind wrapping around my legs, and launched. No war cry, no dramatic pose. Just a gray blur skimming across the ground at insane speed. My background art was running full blast, so every skeleton soldier I zipped past just didn't register me. To their tiny dead brains, I was a slightly fast-moving rock, not worth investigating. Even the Death Knight paused for a second like, did I sense something? Then went back to hammering the paladin. Perfect. I skidded to a stop 30 meters from the altar, boots carving trenches in the stone floor. All that momentum didn't go to waste. It traveled up my spine, through my shoulders, into my arms. Drew the bow. You and I are one, maximum power. The world went silent. Fighting, screaming, the paladin's heavy breathing, all gone. Just me and the altar. My consciousness flowed down my arm, into the bowstring, into the bow itself. We weren't separate objects anymore. The arrows weren't ammunition. They were my fists. My prediction eyes deconstructed the altar into a transparent blueprint, magic circuits pulsing like blood vessels. And there, at the central energy hub, I spotted the weak point. Turbulent energy flows. Structural instability. 3 arrows. Fired so fast the bowstring screamed once instead of 3 times. No fire trails. No fancy glowing effects. 3 black lightning bolts punched into the altar's base cracks. Then a dark red glow swelled inside the altar like a tumor. No boom, just a horrifying sizzle, like acid eating through steel. The altar's bone structure didn't crack or shatter. It just ceased to exist wherever the red light touched. Then the delayed explosion hit. A shockwave of bone fragments and death energy blasted outward in a ring. The paladin's jaw dropped. What was that? The blast wave slammed into the Death Knight's back and staggered it forward. Stop staring and kill it, I screamed. Combat instinct kicked in. The paladin roared, golden light erupting from his sword, and drove it straight into the gap in the Death Knight's neck armor. Simultaneously, Iron Oath's rogue, battered, bloody, but still deadly, shot out of the shadows and planted a glowing dagger into its eye socket. The Death Knight roared one last defiant scream. Soulfire flickered twice. Went out. It collapsed like a falling radio tower. Nice work. The paladin wiped blood off his face, then noticed me emerging from the shadows. Explosive rune arrows? Tier 3 inscriptions? Save the thank yous for the victory party. I pointed toward the distant battle where the Bone Tyrant was currently using the monk as a ping-pong ball. The priest's holy shield was flickering like a candle in a hurricane. The paladin and rogue sprinted toward the boss fight without another word. I couldn't mourn my 3 expensive enchanted arrows. I turned toward the fight I was actually worried about. Carl's battlefield. I activated Phantom Step and blurred across the hall. The first thing I saw was Red Viper's rogue, lying against a rock. Dead. Not peacefully dead. Horribly dead. Skin turned gray-black, face frozen in absolute terror, mouth wide open in a silent scream, hands still clutching his daggers so hard his knuckles were white. Whatever he saw in his final moments, it broke him before it killed him. Nearby, one of the berserkers was on his knees vomiting blood. Chest armor caved in like a crushed soda can. And in the center of it all, Carl, still standing in the exact same spot. Robe spotless, posture relaxed, looking like he'd just finished a pleasant stroll through a garden instead of murdering people. Oh, the little mouse returns. His eyes found me instantly. Through my stealth. Through my background art. Just looked right at me like I was wearing a spotlight. I felt naked. Stripped, like standing in a blizzard with nothing on. Interesting archery, he said with a curious smile, like a professor grading a student's paper. Didn't account for you. You're a slight surprise. Then he casually waved his hand toward the dead rogue's body. It twitched. No, the surviving berserker's voice cracked with despair. The dead rogue's shadow peeled off the ground like wet paint, crawled up the corpse, and wrapped around it. The body shuddered, then stood up. Those eyes that had been frozen in terror were now just empty gray. Puppet. He'd turned the dead man into a puppet. You see, Carl spread his hands like a teacher explaining a simple concept to children. Death isn't an ending. It's merely another form of rebirth. My fingers white-knuckled around the bow. The situation on Carl's side was collapsing. Two wounded berserkers and a fire mage running on fumes. Her fireballs had shrunk to fist size and bounced off Carl's shield without making a ripple, like throwing pebbles at a tank. My right hand drifted to a special arrow in my quiver. But I hesitated, because using that arrow meant showing my hand, revealing what I could really do. In front of a guy who'd just demonstrated he could turn corpses into zombies, deflect everything thrown at him, and hadn't even broken a sweat yet. If I missed, or if it wasn't enough, I'd go from slight surprise to primary target real fast. The second my foot touched the ground near Carl's battlefield, every alarm system in my body went nuclear. Gravity sensors, plant network, survival instinct, all screaming, "Behind you," in capital letters with exclamation marks. I didn't look back, didn't think, didn't even have time for my brain to say, "Oh no." My muscles just moved. Months of near-death training finally paying dividends. Left wrist flipped backward. Short sword cleared the scabbard. The repulsion blade activated. Boom. A shadow bolt from Carl detonated against the invisible force wall literally millimeters from my spine. The repulsion blast launched me forward like a ragdoll. I tumbled through the air twice and skidded across the ground, boots carving trenches. If I'd been 0.1 seconds slower, my back would have had a brand new window with a lovely view of my own ribcage. Carl was just standing where I'd been, brushing non-existent dust off his robe, looking mildly surprised, like a cat whose mouse did something unexpected. "Oh, you actually reacted?" His voice was soft, curious, the tone of someone watching a bug do a funny trick before squishing it. The gap between us was massive. This wasn't a fight I could win with skill. This was a house cat versus a tiger, and the tiger was bored. I turned and screamed at the surviving Red Viper fighters. Whatever secret moves you've been saving, use them now. Forget waiting for Paladin backup. That zombie rogue isn't even cold yet, and we'll be joining him. Raw, brutal honesty. It hit them like a slap. The two blood-soaked berserkers looked at each other. Something clicked. We might actually die here look. RAAGH. Their skin flushed dark crimson. Veins bulged like worms under their flesh. Steam literally rose off their bodies. They'd activated some kind of life-burning overdrive. "I'm trading tomorrow for 5 more minutes of today" button. The fire mage, running on absolute empty, pulled out a bottle of glowing green liquid that screamed, "This is not safe for consumption." She chugged it like a college student shotgunning energy drinks before finals. Her face turned purple, but her staff's flame went from matchstick to inferno. Instead of casting one big spell, she went full machine gun mode. Basic fireballs, hundreds of them, spraying like a magical Gatling gun. Tiny damage each, but the sheer volume turned Carl's entire area into a smoke-and-fire chaos zone. Carl shook his head like a disappointed teacher. Shadow step. Blink, blink, blink. He danced through everything without moving his feet more than an inch each time. Axes missed by millimeters. Fireballs exploded where he'd been a frame ago. He was waltzing through a kill zone like it was a ballroom. He was showing OFF, enjoying himself, playing with people fighting for their lives like it was entertainment. And that's when I went completely still, knelt on the ground, bow drawn to full moon, became a statue at the edge of the battlefield. Prediction eyes, overclocked. The world lost all color. Everything became wireframe. Red lines for berserker swings, yellow dots for fireball blasts, and one flickering black mass jumping through the grid. Carl. He blinked past another axe swing, glanced at me, smiled, then disappeared again. One jump, 2, 3. He was blinking more than necessary now, taunting me. "Go ahead, guess where I'll be next. Shoot and miss so I can kill you." Pure provocation. If I fired and missed, he'd know my attack rhythm. Next blink would end behind me, and this time I'd already burned my repulsion blade cooldown. One shot. That's all I had. Previous life middle-aged man calm took over. No rushing. No panic. I narrowed my prediction zone, stopped trying to track the whole battlefield, and focused on one area. Dense smoke from a recent fireball explosion. Lots of shadows. Perfect blink destination. I saw it. A tiny energy ripple in the smoke. I released. The arrow was so fast it had no sound. It flew into empty air, a patch of smoke where nobody was standing. Then, black ripples bloomed in that exact spot. Carl materialized right into the arrow's path, like he'd teleported onto a landmine. His eyebrow raised slightly, genuine surprise this time. Then the smirk returned. He flicked his finger and summoned a black mercury shield. This thing was preloaded, ready to deploy anytime. He'd seen my explosive arrows earlier. This barrier could eat that level of damage for breakfast. His smile said, "Nice try, kid. But I already prepared for your best move." He was already planning his counter-teleport to appear behind me, probably rehearsing his victory one-liner. Then my arrow cracked open. Not an explosion. A quiet, crystalline sound. Like glass breaking. The plain wooden coating, the camouflage layer, shattered and fell away. And from inside that tiny arrow shaft, a wave of pure, holy, golden white light erupted outward. Not wind energy. Not explosive runes. Holy light. The one element that dark mages fear more than anything in existence. Surprise, Carl. The anti-undead supplies I bought for the raid? Not all of them went into the communal stockpile. Some went into my arrows. And your fancy dark magic shield that absorbs kinetic energy? It was not built for this. That wasn't an arrow. What hit Carl was a compressed, solidified chunk of dawn itself rudely shoved into his face at arrow speed. His precious Psywall shield, the one that supposedly absorbs all physical and magical damage below level 4, met the golden light and reacted like butter meeting a blowtorch. Didn't even make a sound. Just melted open like it was never there. No. Impossible. Carl's permanent smug face shattered. For the first time, the man who'd been treating this entire massacre like a dinner party looked genuinely terrified. He panic-dumped magic into every defensive trinket he owned. His chest amulet screamed, literally screamed, and sprayed out thick black shadow trying to build a curse deflection barrier. The holy light touched it, and the shadow evaporated like snow in a volcano. The amulet exploded into black dust on his chest. Gone. Probably worth more than my entire equipment set. Dust. His enchanted robe activated next, warping space around him, trying to fold reality so the arrow would pass through his armpit instead of his heart. But the arrow was too fast. Space couldn't fold quickly enough. The golden light ripped through the spatial distortion and set the robe on fire. Holy fire spread through the rune circuits like wildfire through dry grass. His fancy silk robe became a torch. Layer after layer of protection, worth a fortune, burned through in under a second. Here's the thing about that arrow. It cost me 60 gold coins. I'd bought a level 3 Dawn Griffin's spirit essence on the black market and enchanted the entire thing onto a single arrow. My original plan was to save it for the Bone Tyrant. A backup nuke in case the team's damage wasn't enough. 60 gold is a lot to put on one arrow. But getting a level 4 monster's enchantment was worth any cost. The moment I realized Carl was a shadow specialist, though, I didn't hesitate for even a heartbeat. Against a dark mage, nothing hits harder than concentrated holy light. Light and dark don't negotiate. They annihilate each other. The arrow punched clean through his chest. Then something weird happened. Instead of exploding immediately, reality just paused. Sound vanished. Like someone hit mute on the universe. A strange singularity formed around the arrow in Carl's chest. Then colors inverted. The dark cavern turned white. The golden light turned black. And Carl's pain-twisted face looked like a photographic negative of a demon. No, I was so close. His final scream came out distorted, like audio through a broken speaker. His soul was being forcibly purified by the holy energy. The dark magic core of his entire being was getting bleached clean. Then something happened that I really, really wish hadn't. My heart skipped a beat. The battlefield disappeared. I was floating in void. I looked up. In the crack of the sky where light and dark energy were tearing each other apart, the stars had rearranged themselves into the shape of an eye. A massive, cold, infinitely deep eye that contained all the darkness and silence in existence. It wasn't looking at me. It was just glancing in this general direction. The way you'd glance at a fly buzzing near your window. Casual, barely interested. Oh, something flickered over there. The eternal night goddess. Carl's boss. The actual goddess. For that fraction of a second, my soul felt like it had been dunked in liquid nitrogen. Every cell in my body was screaming run, but I couldn't move a finger. Complete shutdown. Total paralysis. So that's what a god feels like. 0 out of 10. Would not recommend meeting one. Ever. Fortunately, gods have short attention spans for mortal stuff. One follower dying from a level 3 holy explosion is just cosmic background noise to her. She looked away. Time resumed. Boom. The delayed explosion finally detonated. 2 full seconds of built-up energy released at once. A ring of white holy light mixed with black dark energy, shrapnel blasted outward across 100 meters. The fire mage screamed and got launched like a leaf in a hurricane. Both berserkers, 200 pounds of muscle each, rolled across the ground like tumbleweeds and crashed into rubble piles 100 meters away. Even the bone tyrant across the hall wobbled from the shockwave. Me? I was roughly the same distance as the fire mage. But I didn't fly. My enchanted boots, bless you, deep-rooted, glued me to the floor with everything they had. The wind hit me, and I tilted backward at a 45-degree angle, body completely rigid, leaning like Michael Jackson's anti-gravity lean, except not on purpose and not cool-looking at all. I could hear my boot stitching popping one thread at a time under the strain. Very reassuring. The shockwave passed. I stood there coughing my lungs out, looking like a man who'd survived a point-blank bomb by doing an involuntary limbo dance. Where Carl had been standing, a 5-meter crater. Black crystals and golden flames still burning at the bottom. Dead. I scanned with my eyes. No life signs. No magic signatures. Dead. Then my brain quit. Ugh, massive vertigo hit. I dropped to my knees. Running my prediction eyes at maximum overload for that long had basically wrung out my brain like a wet towel. My head felt like someone was using it as a drum. I fumbled in my pouch with shaking hands and pulled out a small brown bottle. Popped the cork. A smell emerged that can only be described as dirty socks boiled in durian. Goblin Extra Strength Mental Recovery Tonic. Bargain Edition. Effects. Restores 30% mental energy quickly. Side effects. Extreme nausea, and you'll speak with a weird accent for 3 hours. Please don't taste as bad as it smells. I pinched my nose and chugged it. Bleurgh. It tasted worse. A nausea rocket straight to the top of my skull. But it worked. Vision cleared instantly. Mental fog lifted. Brain came back online like a computer after a forced restart. Okay, I'm alive. I wiped the medicine stains off my mouth, yanked my boots out of the cracked ground, and turned toward the remaining battlefield. Carl was gone. 60 gold well spent. The goddess saw me, but didn't care. I now speak with an accent for 3 hours. Net positive? Let's go with yes. Hold the line. For the goddess's glory, the monk's voice was basically gravel at this point. The man looked like he'd been through a blender, a meat grinder, and then the blender again. His shirt was confetti. His skin was a patchwork of old self-whipping scars and fresh monster wounds, all bleeding together into one continuous mess. Every time the bone tyrant's giant sword came down, he sank a little deeper into the ground and coughed out a little more blood. But he did not step back. Not 1 inch. Absolute psychopath. I mean that as the highest compliment. Behind him, one paladin had lost his holy horse and most of his armor. Left arm broken, dangling uselessly. He was still swinging a snapped sword at the tyrant's knee with his right hand. Respect level, infinite. The paladin captain still had his horse, but the fancy silver armor was corroded into Swiss cheese. He was circling, looking for openings that didn't exist. Give me another blessing, the captain shouted. I have nothing left. The priest was slumped on the ground, white as paper, holy symbol completely dark. He'd burned his last drop of faith energy, saving one of the paladins from a killing blow. Despair everywhere. And that's when I understood Carl's whole strategy. He wasn't trying to kill me quickly. He was playing cat and mouse on purpose. Buying time. Every second he kept us busy was a second the bone tyrant had to grind down the church squad. If I hadn't existed, if I hadn't had that 60 gold holy arrow, the ending was simple. Carl finishes us at full health, then strolls over to watch the tyrant crush the paladin's skulls. Game over. Total party kill. Good thing I overprepared. I took a deep breath. The goblin tonic was still making my stomach do backflips, but at least my brain was working. Hey, bald master. Duck. The monk instinctively tucked his head. 2 wind-wrapped arrows screamed over him and slammed into the tyrant, disrupting its next attack just enough to create breathing room. The exhausted priest finally got a chance to drag the broken-armed paladin out of danger. Between my arrows and the paladin captain's harassment, we managed to tag-team the tyrant into a stalemate. Not winning, but not dying, which at this point counted as a massive victory. The monk finally got 30 seconds to catch his breath instead of being used as a punching bag. Then the priest started praying again. Really praying. Full desperation mode, begging the goddess of dawn for one more serving of holy power. A golden glow lit up behind me. The broken paladin's arm snapped back into place, barely functional, but enough to grip a sword. The monk's stomach wound sealed shut before my eyes. Even Red Viper's two berserkers, who I'd honestly forgotten about, got enough juice to stand up again. The priest looked like he'd aged 15 years in 30 seconds. Completely drained, collapsed on the ground, but his eyes were burning. Go, counterattack. The monk's skin turned dark gold, metallic, and he launched himself at the tyrant like a human cannonball. Slam. The two berserkers used the opening to leap up and bury their axes in the tyrant's ribs. Bone chips flew everywhere. Both paladins combined for their ultimate technique, Dawn's Judgment, a massive holy sword of light that knocked the tyrant backward 4 or 5 steps. And I'd been circling the whole time, watching through my prediction eyes, waiting for exactly this moment. There, the connection between the tyrant's neck and chest. The energy was pulsing wildly from rage, and one of the berserker's axe strikes had cracked the bone plate right there. A hairline fracture. That's all I needed. I pulled 3 arrows at once, all enchanted with explosive runes. The expensive ones. Break. 4. Me. Twang. 3 arrows, nose to tail, forming a single line of death. Arrow 1 drilled into the crack. Didn't penetrate, but the impact wedged the fracture open. Arrow 2 slammed into Arrow 1's tail. Double momentum. The arrowhead punched through into the spine gap between the vertebrae. Arrow 3 was the detonator. It triggered every Hawkeye mark I'd stacked throughout the fight and set off all 3 explosive enchantments in a chain reaction. A miniature mushroom cloud bloomed from the bone tyrant's neck. No scream, just the sound of 10 meters of magical skeleton coming apart at the seams. The massive frame froze upright for 1 second, like a building realizing its foundation just got deleted, then collapsed in a cascading avalanche of dead bone. Ribs, arms, skull, spine, all clattering to the floor in a spectacular heap of defeated evil. Silence, just heavy breathing and crackling flames. I lowered my aching arms and stared at the bone pile. It's over. My body felt completely hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and filled me with exhaustion. But this was not rest time. This was loot time. I shuffled toward the tyrant's giant skull on legs that felt like overcooked noodles. This was my first monster this big, 10 meters of scattered bones everywhere. Where do you even touch to extract an enchantment from something this size? The soul should be in the head, right? Heads are where souls live. Probably. I pressed my palm against the skull. Nobody laughed at my corpse-touching habit this time. Not a single snicker. Because every person still alive in this room knew that without me, they'd all be dead, either dissolved by Carl's dark magic or flattened by a bone sword the size of a garage door. My heart was actually racing. This was my first level 4 monster extraction. All that fighting, all that planning, all those expensive arrows, it all came down to this moment. The text appeared in my vision. Level 4 monster detected. Extracting enchantment. Acquired purple tier enchantment. Immortal white bone. Purple. Not green. Not blue. Purple. I'd never even seen purple before. Every enchantment I'd collected so far was green or blue. This was a completely new tier. My hands were shaking, and for the first time today, it wasn't from exhaustion. It was from excitement. The aftermath was rough. Everyone looked like they'd been through a washing machine filled with rocks. Red Viper's berserker was whining about bandages touching his last piece of good skin. The priest was so drained of holy energy, he couldn't even cast the equivalent of turning on a flashlight. We'd gone from elite raid team to medieval first aid class in record time. Bandages, clotting powder, and stinky herbal paste. That was our medical plan. Very heroic. While everyone patched each other up, I volunteered for guard duty. Not out of kindness, out of paranoia. Every novel I'd ever read had the same trope. Party relaxes after boss fight. Gets ambushed by random trash mobs. Not happening on my watch. Then I walked over to Carl's crater. 5 meters wide, still smoking. The dirt at the bottom had been crystallized by holy energy into something that looked like stained glass. And in the center, a clump of black material. Half solidite, half obsidian. Carl's remains, not fully purified. Is this his ashes? I thought about his final scream. The rage. The desperation. And I thought about my 60 gold arrow that I was still mourning. Worth a touch? Definitely worth a touch. I reached down and pressed my finger against the cold black crystal. A tsunami of memories crashed into my brain. Memory 1. Rain and copper coins. Young Carl, maybe 12, kneeling on the white marble steps of a holy light cathedral. Knees bleeding. Rain lashing his face. Clutching a handful of worn copper coins. Everything his family had left after selling their last furniture and his mother's wedding jewelry. Please, my father is dying. The priest at the door wasn't cruel looking. That was the worst part. He had a perfect expression of professional sympathy, like a bank teller declining a loan. Child, today's healing appointment is reserved for the Baron, but the Baron just has gout. It's not about severity. The Baron booked 2 months ago, then a fancy carriage pulled up. A noble lady rushed out carrying a shivering poodle. Oh, Father Benedict, my little prince has a tummy ache. He keeps whimpering. The same priest who just told a dying man's son to wait instantly switched to a warm, genuine smile and ushered the lady inside. Carl watched her stuff paper bills into the donation box. Minutes later, the dog trotted out wagging its tail. Healed. Carl's father died that night. Something inside that boy shattered on those white steps, and it never got put back together. Memory 2. The mirror 3 days after both parents died. The apartment stank of decomposition. Carl hadn't cried once. He stood in front of a mirror all night, practicing, copying the priest's smile. That specific expression, eyes slightly drooped, mouth curved exactly 15 degrees, radiating compassion while feeling absolutely nothing. Crying is useless. When you cry, you're a drowning dog and everyone kicks you. But put on a tailcoat, even with empty pockets, and they'll tip their hats. From the darkness beneath the floorboards, a voice answered. Not from heaven, from below, from the mud and the shadows. The light is too high, child. It can't reach where you are. But darkness is right here. It embraces you. It doesn't care about your clothes. Carl smiled at the mirror. This time, the smile was flawless. Elegant. Like he'd been born noble. Memory 3. The long game fast forward through stolen tailcoats, forged family crests, nights devouring forbidden dark magic texts in libraries, and, during the day, praying at the cathedral with such convincing devotion that the same priest who'd refused him years ago praised him as the goddess's most devout follower, because now Carl looked like a gentleman. Hypocrisy measured in thread count. The memories ended on today's battlefield. Carl standing in camp, looking at the expedition he'd spent 6 months arranging. A level 4 dark mage, 1 step from level 5. 5 pure holy souls. That's all the eternal night lady needs as a sacrifice to push me past the breakthrough. Come then. Perform your final act for my ascension. The memories cut to black. I gasped back to reality, panting like I'd been drowning. That was an uncomfortable story, no great sympathy, but definitely some bitter understanding. In this garbage world, good people die young, and most villains started as victims. Carl wasn't born evil. He was an unlucky kid who knocked on the wrong door on the wrong night and got told a dog mattered more than his dad. Doesn't excuse murdering 8 people for a promotion, but it explains the smile. Purple tier enchantment acquired. Elegant waltz. 2 purples in 1 day. 1 from the bone tyrant. 1 from the guy who fed us soup. Victor, you okay? The paladin captain shouted from across the ruins. Fine. Just having an existential crisis. I dusted myself off and walked back to camp. Night fell. The battlefield went dead quiet. Just campfire crackles. Nobody talked. We were all too exhausted, too hollowed out. Red Viper's rogue, the one who always bragged about his speed and how many nobles he'd pickpocket. Oh right. He was dead, reanimated as a zombie puppet, then vaporized. Mood, heavy. The paladin captain finally broke the silence. Tomorrow morning, we head back to Coldwind City. I'll report everything to the bishop. The mission had complications. But Carl is dead. The bone tyrant is purified. We succeeded, at a terrible cost. But yes, I stared into the fire and quietly tallied my haul. 5 blue enchantments from the Death Knights and the Lich along the way. Enough to cover every remaining skill I had, with extras to spare. 1 purple from the Bone Tyrant. 1 surprise purple from Karl's Remains. 2 purple tier enchantments. In 1 expedition. Lost a 60 gold arrow. But overall, I rubbed my chin, firelight dancing in my eyes. Definitely came out ahead. The raid cost me 1 arrow and several years off my lifespan from stress. It gave me 2 purple enchantments, 5 blues, and the kind of combat experience you can't buy. Net profit, absolutely massive. I'm a terrible person for thinking about loot right now, aren't I? Everyone's mourning, and I'm doing mental accounting. But hey, in this world, the sentimental die first, and the pragmatic get purple drops. I'll light a candle for the dead later, right after I figure out where to put these enchantments. The walk home was the quietest journey of my life. 28 went in. 11 came out. Nobody talked. The Red Viper Berserker was still carrying his giant axe, but the spot next to him, where his rogue buddy always walked, empty. Like a missing tooth, you can't stop poking with your tongue. Even the loudest, most obnoxious mercenaries in the group had nothing to say. Everyone knew the math. Without my arrows at the right moments, the number coming back would have been 0. Being alive is pretty great, actually. I pulled my cloak tighter and let the silence be. We hit the surface in the afternoon. Autumn sunlight, cold but warm at the same time. That weird feeling of, wait, the sky exists, after days underground. Like waking up from the longest, worst nightmare and finding your bed still comfortable. The goodbye was simple. No speeches, no handshakes, just eye contact and nods. The kind of look that says, if we're both still breathing next time, maybe we'll do this again. Then everyone scattered like leaves. The paladin captain stopped me before I could disappear. Victor, thank you. Without you, we'd all be reporting to the goddess in person. Just business, I shrugged. I was here for the paycheck. He told me the church doesn't forget its friends, that this whole thing was a long-planned eternal night conspiracy, and that my existence was the variable that let them survive. Also, they still owed me my mission payment. He took down my inn's name and left, carrying the Bone Tyrant's massive skull as proof of completion. Back at the inn, door locked, body launched onto the softest bed in the known universe. For the first time in days, every muscle in my body unclenched simultaneously. I think I heard my spine sigh with relief. All right, loot box time. I sat up like a spring-loaded jack-in-the-box and pulled out my treasures. Immortal White Bone, purple. Elegant Waltz, purple, 2. Purple. Enchantments. In 1 trip, my eyes were literally glowing. This was lottery winner level luck. The kind of fortune that strikes once and never comes back. And if it does come back, I'm not going. I am never doing a raid like this again. I had full self-awareness. That raid was 4 tiers above my pay grade. I went in to fight a level 4 monster and accidentally stumbled into a conflict between actual gods. A church conspiracy, a dark mage mastermind, and a deity casually peeking at me from the sky. For a level 3-ish ranger. Absolutely unhinged difficulty scaling. So these 2 purples needed to be used perfectly. I looked at my skill list. Ranged attacks, melee combat, detection, stealth, equipment synergy, prediction eyes. Actually a pretty well-rounded kit. But the real MVP? The foundation of everything? Breathing technique. It's what upgrades my body. Strength, agility, constitution, they all grow through breathing. Every other skill is useless if my body breaks down. Can't snipe from the shadows if you're dead. Can't be a sneaky opportunist if you collapse after 1 hit. Only the living deal damage. Only a healthy body can be a proper coward. Priority number 1. No contest. I grabbed the immortal white bone, that gorgeous purple orb, and slammed it into my breathing technique. Ding. Enchantment merging. Reconstructing skill architecture. Evolution successful. Acquired. Immortal, time trace breathing technique. Purple. LV.12. The description made my jaw drop. For an immortal being, it has witnessed countless lives bloom and wither to dust. Through endless cycles of birth and death, it understood that everything is fleeting. Only time is eternal. Every breath lets me read the age of rocks, count tree rings, assess weapon wear. I can taste a living being's life flow, their remaining lifespan, cellular decay rate, even old injuries hidden by time. This gives me massive resistance against aging, poison, curses, and anything that works through time-based erosion. And the real kicker, breathing accumulates, times sand. Spend it, and my perception detaches from physical time. Everything around me slows to near zero. The world essentially pauses while I keep thinking and reacting at normal speed. I breathe in. The world transformed. I looked at the wooden table in my room and felt its entire history. The tree growing in a forest, the shock of being cut down by a lumberjack, and even a vision of its future rotting into dust. The table's whole life story, just from breathing near it. Deep in my mind, I found a glass hourglass, golden sand sitting in the bottom chamber. Not much, but it was there. So that's the time sand. I mentally flipped the hourglass. Golden grains trickled down, evaporating the instant they hit the bottom. I opened my eyes. The dust motes floating in the sunbeam had stopped. Not completely. They were still moving, but so incredibly slowly that each tiny speck looked frozen in amber. I waved my hand through the air and left a visible trail in the solidified atmosphere, like drawing lines in thick fog. Then the sand ran out, and reality snapped back to normal speed. That's bullet time. I just unlocked bullet time. Like in the movies. Like that scene with the bullets. Except it's real, and it's my ability, and I can use it in combat. Bullet time plus prediction eyes that read muscle movements before attacks happen. Let me do the math on that. I can see what you're going to do before you do it. And then I can slow down time, so I have all the leisure in the world to perfectly aim my countershot. What in this entire world could I possibly not hit? The answer is nothing. The answer is I hit everything. Every time. Forever. Purple enchantments don't just upgrade skills. They break them. They turn, pretty good, into, this shouldn't be legal. If the blue tier was like getting a sports car, the purple tier is like strapping a jet engine to a bicycle, and somehow it works. I still had the second purple, elegant waltz from Carl, sitting in my inventory, waiting for the perfect skill match. And despite just saying I'd never do another insane raid, if another opportunity for a purple enchantment showed up, yeah, I'd probably go. I'm weak. I admit it. Purple is my new addiction. Elegant waltz. Carl's parting gift from beyond the grave. Run fast. Stay alive. Alive means damage. Zero hesitation. Even ignoring Carl's creepy shadow teleport fighting style, the word waltz practically screams footwork skill. I slammed the purple orb into Phantom Step. New skill, 3-beat, applause and spotlight. Purple, LV.11. Excuse me, I stared at the name. This was the most extra skill name I'd ever received, and I once got a skill literally called, My Prediction Surpasses Yours. The purple tier apparently has a flair for the dramatic. The description was a whole essay. Your footwork isn't hurrying. It's dancing to the destination. And since you're on stage, you obviously need spotlights and applause. Applause, explosive burst dash covering massive distance, leaves behind an afterimage where you started. Spotlight, silent, weightless glide. Zero sound, zero trace. 3-beat combo. Use applause spotlight in sequence, and A, dance step, charge builds on your body. Spend it to inject energy into your last afterimage, turning it into a real temporary clone. A, dance partner, that copies your attacks for coordinated strikes. This skill is complicated, and weirdly, classy. I couldn't sit still. Grabbed my cloak, snuck out, found an abandoned construction site on the city outskirts. Just me and some stray cats digging through garbage. Let's try applause first. Deep breath. Power channeled into legs. Boom. The ground became a springboard. I launched forward so fast the scenery smeared into motion blur lines. Holy! I was 20 meters away before my brain caught up, nearly face-planting into a broken wall. I turned around. Standing at my starting position was me. A perfect gray afterimage frozen in my pre-launch pose. Every cloak wrinkle, every detail, crystal clear. It stood there like a ghost for about 2 seconds, then faded. That's fast. Now. Spotlight. I tapped my toe. The world hit mute. I flowed through the rubble field like a weightless feather. I deliberately ran across a pile of dry branches, the kind that normally crunch like potato chips under your feet. They just bent slightly. Didn't even snap. Like my feet had invisible air cushions. Spotlight covers about 2/3 of applause's distance, but starts way faster. One's a cannon launch, the other's a ghost glide. Now the combo. I faced the graffiti-covered wall. Imagine it was my worst enemy. Internal rhythm. Boom shushu. Boom. Applause. After image planted, I rocketed to the wall's left side. Whoosh. Spotlight. Ghosted right. Whoosh. Spotlight. Appeared behind the wall. The instant I completed the sequence, warm energy flooded my body and solidified into a translucent, tuxedo-shaped energy coat. The dance step charge. Go. I mentally flung the energy toward my afterimage, which was still barely visible 20 meters away. The gray clone lit up. Color returned to it. A faint light appeared in its empty eyes. It went from freeze-frame ghost to actual person in a heartbeat. I drew my bow, knocked an arrow, pulled to full draw. The dance partner, 20 meters away, did the exact same thing simultaneously. It conjured a glowing energy bow out of thin air, stance perfect, form textbook. We fired together. Two bowstrings sang as one. One real arrow, one energy arrow, from two completely different angles, converging on the wall. Crash. The real arrow blasted through brick. The energy arrow hit the debris cloud and triggered a secondary explosion. When the dust cleared, the half-meter-thick stone wall had a hole clean through it. Roughly 1.3 to 1.5 times damage boost from the duo attack. I watched my elegant clone fade into the air and snapped my fingers. Shame I never learned to dance in my previous life. Counting beats in my head during combat feels weird. I spent the next 2 days obsessively practicing. Room, abandoned lot, room, abandoned lot. Boom shushu, boom shushu. Over and over. At first I kept missing the rhythm and the skill would fizzle. Then I got smoother. Seamless applause to spotlight transitions at full speed, even using the dance partner as a stepping platform for double jumps. Day 3 morning. Knock on my door. Is this where Mr. Victor is staying? A polite, warm voice with that unmistakable priestly cadence. My breathing technique told me everything before I opened the door. White robes, holy energy, young male. I opened up. Yep. Young priest, Church of Light badge, professional warm smile that probably came standard with the uniform. The paladin captain must have filed his report. Probably just a payment delivery, my mission reward. But this priest's presence felt heavier than a delivery boy's. That's me. I leaned against the doorframe. If you're selling redemption vouchers, I suggest the door to the left. A newly rich dwarf lives there. Very susceptible to guilt. The priest blinked. Clearly hadn't prepared for that as an opener. But he recovered smoothly and bowed. You're quite humorous, Mr. Victor. My name is Andrew, assistant priest at Coldwind City's Holy Light Cathedral. His pale gold eyes had a sharp, appraising quality that didn't match his gentle smile. I'm here on the bishop's orders to invite you to the cathedral. Is my reward check so big it needs the bishop's personal signature? The reward is an insignificant part of why you've been summoned. Andrew stepped aside with a polite, after you, gesture. His tone was respectful, but underneath it was a very clear, this isn't optional. The bishop is very interested in your performance in the dungeon. Oh great. The bishop wants to meet me. Not, here's your gold. Thanks, bye. The actual head of the local church wants a face-to-face. This was either very good, fat bonus, connections, protection, or very bad. They notice something, they want something. I'm getting recruited into organized religion. Well, if the bishop's asking, it'd be rude to say no. I shrugged, locked my door, and followed the priest. Lead the way, Father. Internally, please just be money. Please just be money. The Holy Light Cathedral. A massive white building stabbing into the sky like God's own middle finger to architecture. I followed the young priest Andrew inside, and with every step this was a mistake, alarm got louder. I've never been a fan of religious buildings. In a world where gods actually exist, walking into their house is like going through an X-ray machine naked. You never know when the big boss upstairs might decide to peek at your insides. The front doors opened and 2 rows of silver-armored temple knights simultaneously slammed their ceremonial spears on the ground. Don't. I nearly jumped out of my skin. Thanks for the heart attack, guys. Red carpet. Fancy everything. And at the end, the bishop himself, waiting for me in full golden-trimmed robes with a platinum staff, looking like the world's most expensive grandfather. Our hero has arrived. Paladin Captain Raymond, Scarface, my old raid buddy, marched over and slapped my shoulder so hard I think he rearranged my vertebrae. Just doing my job, Captain, I wheezed. Humility. What a precious virtue. The bishop glided over, all warm smiles and twinkling eyes. But behind those eyes, pure fox, this man had been calculating something since before I walked in. I'm Bishop Alban. The Church of Light always repays its debts. Please, let's talk inside. The meeting room was so fancy it made me physically uncomfortable. Paintings on the walls worth more than 100 Blackstone towns. Crystal water glasses. I was afraid to breathe on anything. Raymond handed me a black card with magic patterns etched into it. 2,000 gold coins. Withdrawable at any gold wheat union bank across the continent. 2,000 gold. The mission reward plus loot share comes to 280 gold per person. The rest is the church's personal gratitude for saving our people. I was still trying to process 2,000 gold when the bishop dropped the real bomb. Mr. Victor, besides gratitude, I have a small curiosity. Here it comes. You mean the arrow? Precisely. The bishop's eyes went sharp. You're not a follower of the light goddess. You have no registered divine magic credentials. Yet you defeated what appears to have been a fourth circle shadow mage. That was no ordinary ranger's arrow. In this world, power has copyright. Dark magic belongs to Eternal Night. Holy light belongs to Dawn Church. A random freelance ranger pulling out a nuke-grade holy attack is like some random civilian pressing the president's nuclear button. Of course the church was freaking out. That was luck. I lied with the confidence of a man who lies professionally. Found an ancient arrow on the black market. Seller said it was from some old ruin. You know how those ancient craftsmen were, always making weird stuff. I was desperate, threw a Hail Mary, didn't expect it to actually work. Honestly, if I'd known it was wholly related, I would have brought it straight to the church. Absolutely. 100%. The bishop stared at me for several very long seconds. Black market plus ancient ruin equals completely unverifiable dead end. No paper trail. I see. Then it was the goddess's guidance, placing that relic in the right hands. Translation: I don't believe you, but you're useful and not hostile, so I'll pretend I do. Well, if we're all good here. I grabbed the crystal card and started standing up. I won't interrupt your prayers any longer. Please stay. The bishop tapped his staff on the floor. The doors behind me swung open. 4 high-ranking paladins stood in the doorway, not drawing swords. Didn't need to. Their mere presence felt like a castle wall materializing behind me. Mr. Victor, since you used the power of light, even accidentally, that means you have an affinity with holy energy. The bishop's smile was still warm, but it had grown teeth. We've prepared a small baptism ceremony, just beneath the goddess's statue in the main hall, merely to cleanse any battlefield contamination you might have picked up. You wouldn't refuse the light's kindness, would you? After all, we should confirm that the energy didn't cause any burden on your body. Translation: we're going to scan you with divine magic, and you can either walk in willingly or get carried in by 4 guys who bench press. Horses. I looked at the paladins, looked at the bishop, mentally cursed the Church of Light, their goddess, their ancestors, their fancy crystal cups, and their stupid red carpet. Of course, being bathed in holy light is my honor. I was going to die. This was how I died. Not in a dungeon, not fighting monsters. In a church, getting a bath. The main cathedral hall was breathtaking and terrifying in equal measure. Massive painted dome ceiling showing paradise. Rainbow lights streaming through stained glass. And in the dead center, a 20-meter white jade statue of the dawn goddess herself, barefoot on thorns, one hand sheltering her chest protectively, the other raising a glowing lantern called the Morning Star. The statue radiated a pressure that made my knees want to buckle on their own. My body was literally trying to worship without my permission. I stood beneath her, feeling like an ant under a magnifying glass on a sunny day. Relax, child. Bishop Alban began chanting on the altar. Gentle particles of holy light condensed in the air and drifted toward me like golden snowflakes. I was not relaxed. I was the opposite of relaxed. Here's my problem. I'm a transmigrator from another world with a mysterious cheat system floating in my brain. If this goddess's holy scan flagged me as otherworldly demon or heretic entity, I'd be cremated on the spot, live, in front of an audience, with no refund on my 2,000 gold. And of course, because the universe hates me, halfway through the ceremony, those gentle holy particles suddenly went berserk. Boom! Oh no! Oh no! The Holy Light Cathedral. A giant white building that looked like God decided to stab the skyline with a fancy sword. Every step I took inside, the voice in my head screaming, "Leave," got louder. In a world where gods are real, walking into their headquarters is like going through a full-body scanner while hiding contraband. Except the contraband is my entire existence as a person from another world with a cheat system. The front doors opened. 2 rows of silver-armored temple knights simultaneously slammed their spears on the floor. Dome. My soul briefly left my body. Not the kind of welcome I needed right now. Red carpet, golden everything, and Bishop Alban himself waiting at the end, dressed like the world's most expensive Santa Claus, platinum staff in hand, smiling like he already knew what I ate for breakfast. Raymond, Paladin Captain, my Scarface buddy, slapped my shoulder hard enough to reclassify it as assault. Our hero, just doing my job, I wheezed through a collapsed lung. The meeting room was so luxurious I was afraid my poverty would stain the furniture. Paintings worth entire towns. Crystal drinking glasses. The air probably cost money to breathe. Raymond handed me a black magic card. 2,000 gold coins. Usable at any gold wheat union bank on the continent. I'm sorry. 2,000. 280 per person from the mission reward and loot shares. The rest is the church's personal thanks for saving our clergy. 2,000 gold. That's nearly 6,000 times my first earnings in this world. My brain was still buffering when Bishop Alban dropped the interrogation. Mr. Victor, I have a small curiosity. That arrow, boy, you're not a light follower. No divine magic license. Yet you apparently defeated a 4th circle dark mage. That wasn't a normal arrow. See, in this world, power has brand ownership. Dark magic equals eternal night trademark. Holy light equals Dawn Church intellectual property. A random freelancer pulling out church-grade holy nukes is like some guy off the street launching a military missile. Lawyers get involved. Scary lawyers with swords. That was luck, I said, with the calm confidence of a professional liar. Found an ancient arrow at a black market stall. Seller said it was from old ruins. Ancient craftsmen, you know how they are, always making weird things. I was desperate, threw a Hail Mary, shocked myself honestly. If I'd known it was wholly related, I absolutely would have donated it to the church. 100%. Scout's honor. The bishop stared at me for what felt like 40 years. Black market, ancient ruin, equals completely uncheckable. Dead end. Case closed. The goddess guided that relic to the right hands. He said warmly, which is bishop speak for, I don't believe you, but you're useful so whatever. Great. If that's all, I'll just take my card and, please stay. Staff tap. Doors opened behind me. 4 high-level paladins standing there like a wall of muscle and divine judgment. Since you've used the power of light, you clearly have an affinity. We've prepared a small baptism ceremony. Just a cleansing. You wouldn't refuse, would you? Translation. We're scanning you with god magic and you can walk in or get dragged in. I looked at the 4 paladins. Each one's thigh was thicker than my torso. Being bathed in holy light is my honor. Internally, screaming. The main hall. 20-meter white jade statue of the dawn goddess. Barefoot on thorns. One hand cradling her chest, the other holding a glowing lantern. The statue radiated a pressure that made my knees want to surrender independently from the rest of my body. I stood beneath her feeling like a bug under a magnifying glass on a sunny day. Relax, child. The bishop started chanting. Gentle golden snowflakes drifted toward me. My thoughts. I'm a transmigrator with an alien cheat system. If this goddess flags me as an otherworldly demon, I'm getting cremated live. On marble floors. In front of an audience. The holy particles touched me, and BWM. The entire cathedral shook. The statue's eyes opened. Time stopped. Sound vanished. My soul got yanked out of my body and dangled in the air like a cat being held by the scruff. I'm done. My cover's blown. It was a good run. Wait. The goddess's gaze wasn't examining my transmigrator soul. She was staring at something else deep inside me. A tiny black stain I didn't even know existed. The eternal night goddess's mark. Left behind when she'd glanced at me during Carl's death explosion. So sneaky that even my cheat system hadn't detected it. But Dawn Goddess saw it. And her reaction was basically, EW. Gross. Not words. Just raw divine disgust beamed directly into my brain. Then a tsunami of golden energy bulldozed through my soul without asking permission. The black stain shrieked and evaporated like a vampire in a tanning bed. Cosmic cleanup complete. I collapsed on the floor gasping like a fish on land. Drenched in sweat, completely drained, but feeling weirdly lighter. Like a weight I didn't know I was carrying just got deleted. A miracle. The goddess has blessed him. Everyone was kneeling. The bishop, Raymond, every priest. All staring at me and the statue with religious ecstasy on their faces. To them, the goddess had personally showered me with divine favor. The highest honor imaginable. In reality, she'd seen a competitor's sticker on my soul and ripped it off because she has cosmic OCD. I was a bystander in a turf war between two goddesses. One secretly tagged me. The other saw the tag and deleted it out of pure spite. And I'm standing here like, please stop using my soul as a bulletin board, Mr. Victor. You are truly blessed by the goddess. The bishop handed me a silver cross glowing with divine energy. Morning silver radiance. Token church relationship upgraded to respected VIP treatment at all Dawn Church locations. 70% discount on holy water and scrolls. I couldn't refuse. The bishop's expression clearly said, rejecting this gift would be problematic. I humbly accept. Then I checked my status panel outside. The goddess didn't just remove the stain. She left her own buff. Like a dog marking territory. This buff is insane, but I'm now officially caught between two goddesses playing chess, and I just became a pawn on the board. Eternal Night will notice her mark is gone. Dawn left such a strong countermark that next time Eternal Night sees me, she'll think I'm Dawn's agent. Free money. Free power. Nothing is ever truly free. I should stay far away from anything religious from now on. I pulled my cloak tight and disappeared into Cold Wind City's crowded streets. The market noise and mundane chaos felt like a warm blanket after the divine soap opera. But the 2,000 gold card in my pocket made me smile despite everything. First stop, the Ranger Guild's 4th floor. The Premium Gallery. The VIP section I'd never been rich enough to enter. Softwool carpets. Faint incense. No shouting. Just quiet luxury. How can I help you, sir? I want a better bow. Apologies, sir. This floor requires senior rank. I was about to leave when a high elf manager rushed over. Mr. Victor, we've just learned of your connection to the Church of Light. The guild has upgraded your rank to senior, and all items here are available to you at a 20% VIP discount. The church's influence traveled faster than my feet. I'd been in here for 30 seconds, and they already knew about the bishop's blessing. So much for the guild being independent from religious influence, I muttered, following the elegant elf toward the weapon displays. Horn Eagle Wing Bow, modeled after the legendary Windrunner. 500-year wind-dried whisperwood, adult Horn Eagle tendon string. 500 gold. Dragon Roar Bow, Fire Dragon Bone Powder Core, Dwarf Master Forged. Every arrow carries bonus fire damage. 600 gold. I was finally shopping in the big leagues. With money, connections, a goddess's buff, and absolutely zero idea how I got here from being a broke orphan in a backwater town. Life comes at you fast when gods start using your soul as a post-it note. Level 5 Dungeon. The Dark Corridor Zone. A maze of caves covered in glowing moss. A Level 3 Shadow Weasel was running for its life through the stalactite forest. These things are famous for being ridiculously fast and impossibly slippery. Most rangers just end up shooting at empty air while the weasel laughs and disappears. This weasel was not laughing, because I wasn't chasing it like a normal hunter. I was strolling behind it casually, like a guy walking his dog in the park, holding my brand new bow and using this whole hunt as a warm-up exercise. 3 quick arrows, each wrapped in wind energy from the bow itself, slammed into the ground near the weasel's feet. Not hits. Intentional near misses. I was hurting it. Like a sheepdog nudging a sheep into a corner, I was controlling its movement pattern with precisely placed, almost got you, shots, funneling it into a specific angle. The weasel thought it was dodging brilliantly. It wasn't. I was the choreographer, and it was dancing exactly where I wanted. No special skills activated. No prediction eyes. No wind techniques. Just the bow doing its thing. Warm-up's over. Let's test the instruments. I pulled a different arrow. The energy around it shifted to something dark and quiet. When I released it, there was no sound. Not even a whisper of wind. Total silence. The weasel was mid-leap, ears up, waiting for the familiar whoosh to know which direction to dodge. Nothing came. Until, THP, the arrow was already through its back leg. No blood. Just gray-black death energy eating through the muscle fiber like acid through paper. Rest note. Hold still. Next arrow, deep blue. Frost element. Pinned the left leg. Ice spreading from the impact point across its body like fast-growing crystal. Follow-up arrow, blue-white. Lightning. Hit the spine. Nerves fried. The weasel's last attempt to struggle became a stiff, twitching seizure. Slow first, then lockdown. Don't panic, buddy. Just follow my lead. The weasel was now a frozen, electrocuted, poisoned, completely immobilized statue. I drew the bow one final time. A node inside the bow's body lit up crimson red. And that's the final movement. The arrow turned cherry red. I released. The bowstring sounded like a war drum ending a symphony. A red meteor streaked across the dark cavern and hit the weasel dead center. Boom. Fireball. Shattered ice fragments. The smell of barbecue. No scream. The weasel was deleted from existence before sound could travel. A 2-meter scorched crater was all that remained. I lowered the bow and blew imaginary smoke off the tip. That entire fight was pure equipment flex. I used my breathing technique to locate it and my dance step to keep pace. That's it. Everything else, the wind arrows, the dark energy arrow, the frost arrow, the lightning arrow, the fire nuke, all came from the bow itself. No skills needed. The bow did all the work. This is what 960 gold coins buys you. My new weapon, the 5-star harmonic resonance bow, made from 1,000-year echoing wood, a magical tree species where wind blowing through its hollow chambers creates different musical tones depending on the element. Fire wind, frost wind, lightning wind. Each one plays a different note through the wood's natural channels. The internal grain pattern is the magic circuit. No runes needed. No enchanting required. The tree literally grew its own spell system. The design blueprints came from high elves of the Moonlight Grove. The core magic gem was custom forged by dwarf master craftsmen using magic cores and enchanted alloys. The final assembly required a space magic specialist to fit everything together. The bowstring was woven from the central fiber of a symbiotic vine that grew alongside the echoing wood for centuries, making it compatible with every element type. Basically, I was holding a miniature wizard tower shaped like a bow. 5 elemental chambers that light up in sequence: red, blue, white, green, black, turning regular arrows into whatever flavor of death I wanted. The high elf at the guild described it like a nature documentary narrator falling in love with a tree. I just heard, does everything, costs everything. Almost 1,000 gold coins for a bow. I pried the still intact magic core from the smoking crater with my knife. Waste not, want not. But totally worth it. I finally understood what those pay-to-win players in my previous life's video games felt like. That rush of, I spent way too much money but now everything dies when I look at it. Except this wasn't a game. In this world, gold that doesn't become combat power is just shiny metal waiting for a dragon to steal it. The crystal card still had about 1,000 gold left, plus my personal savings. The bow ate half the church's reward in one bite. Next purchase, defensive gear. Good armor costs even more than weapons at this tier, so I needed to farm a few more level 3 monsters first to pad the budget. But for now, I had 1,000 gold bow, 5 elements on tap, and a dungeon full of monsters who had no idea what was coming. I vanished into the darkness, footsteps silent as a ghost, grinning like an idiot. This is what being rich feels like. And I never want to go back to being poor. Level 7. The 1,000-pillar corridor, a giant underground maze of natural stone columns that smelled like rotten moss, had a baby with a sulfur mine. And I was sprinting through it with an army of red-eyed cave people behind me. Hundreds of level 2 bloodthirsty cavemen screaming and waving rusty weapons, chasing me like I owed them money. Which I didn't. I owed them arrows. I didn't bother turning around. My hands were a blur. Grab arrow, knock, draw, release. The whole sequence so fast it looked like a muscle spasm with deadly consequences. Arrows rained backward like a sprinkler system of death. Every single one found an eye socket or a throat. This wasn't marksmanship anymore. This was an industrial process. Mid-massacre, my prediction eyes spotted the commander hiding in the mob. a level 3 caveman warlord, 3 or 4 times bigger than the grunts. Applause. I twisted midair, boots detonating with a sonic boom, and performed a physics-defying spinning leap. My bow flashed red. Boom. Explosive arrow straight to the warlord's chest. It flew backward, trailing smoke like a failed rocket. Before it even landed, 2 wind-accelerated arrows punched through its throat. Job done. I mean, loot done. The cavemen panicked without their leader. I used those precious seconds of chaos to slide over to the warlord's body and slap a spatial stone on it. 5 gold per stone, single use, but it shrinks an entire monster corpse into a pebble. Way better than dragging a body the size of a car back to the surface. Now here's where things got industrially efficient. See, I had a new setup. My backpack and arrow quiver were made from the same space beast's stomach, meaning they shared one 50 cubic meter pocket dimension. And my backpack was enchanted with resource recycling. Translation: I throw dead monsters into the backpack. The backpack eats them. 3 seconds of horrifying crunching, grinding, bone-snapping sounds later. Ding! A fresh bone arrow pops out of my quiver, still warm. The monsters become the ammunition used to kill more monsters. The ultimate circular economy. So picture this: me, performing elegant 3-beat dance steps through a battlefield, gracefully pirouetting between stone columns, while also grabbing corpses by the ankle and yeeting them over my shoulder into a backpack that sounds like a garbage disposal eating a skeleton. Nah, this one's too skinny. Brittle bones. Toss. Ooh, this one's nice. Thick thigh bones. Good for armor-piercing arrows. Toss. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Ding. Fresh arrow. Truly the most disgusting recycling program ever invented. My combat style had evolved from elegant shadow archer to murderous trash collector who dances. I was having the time of my life when my breathing technique screamed a warning. The tunnel ahead lit up with hundreds, no, thousands, of red eyes. The ground shook. 2 level 3 monsters leading another massive wave, flanking me from the side. Oh, come on. Again, let me explain how I got into this mess. For months had passed since the Bone Tyrant raid. I'd enchanted every single piece of my equipment with blue enchantments. Most of my blue tier skills had hit max level at LV.15. I was stacked, and because I was addicted to purple enchantments now, but also because the Bone Tyrant raid taught me that group raids are terrifying, I decided to try something ambitious. Solo a level 4 monster. After days of research, I picked my target, a level 4 abyssal caveman, the regional boss of this area. Huge mistake. This thing didn't fight fair. It didn't do the classic boss monster thing where it sits in a room waiting for you to challenge it honorably. Day 1 was normal enough. I cleared 100 level 2 grunts and 1 level 3 lieutenant. Standard farming. Day 2. 3 level 3 monsters and 1,000 grunts showed up simultaneously, and they attacked my camp at night, while I was sleeping. This isn't a monster. This is a military general who Red Sun TZU. The level 4 caveman was running a tactical operation against me. Surrounding maneuvers, attrition warfare, sleep deprivation attacks, wave after wave of reinforcements. It was treating me like an invading army that needed to be ground down through logistics. Even with infinite ammunition from my recycling backpack, I was one guy. My body could keep going, but my mental energy had limits. You can't maintain prediction eyes and breathing radar 24 hours a day without your brain melting. Smart men don't fight losing battles. Retreat. I activated Spotlight, went full silent mode, and slithered into the stone column forest like smoke, sprinting toward the level 7 camp. Behind me, impotent roaring and the sound of cavemen smashing rocks in frustration because their target had vanished. Humbling. Very humbling. 4 months of grinding, blue enchantments maxed out on everything, 1,000 gold bow, and I still couldn't solo a level 4 monster. The gap between can easily farm level 3 and can challenge level 4 was like the gap between can swim in a pool and can swim across the ocean. I got cocky. I admit it. I thought all that gear and all those skills meant I was ready. The caveman warlord and his 10,000-strong army politely informed me that I was not. Maybe. It's time to look into that other job. There was apparently a quest I'd been putting off. Something that might give me what I needed without requiring me to fight an entire civilization by myself. Because clearly, being a one-man army has a ceiling, and I just smacked my face into it at full speed. The Adventurers Guild. Same old smell of cheap beer, sweat, and desperation. That level 4 caveman definitely went to college, I muttered, accepting my defeat like a mature adult. Then my eyes landed on a fancy gold-lettered recruitment poster that had been hanging there for over a week. Caravan Guard Recruitment Employer. Silver Will Trading Company Destination. Valence City, western hub of River Valley Province. Departure. Spring Thaw Day, 10 days from now. Requirements. Gold or Mithril rank adventurers. Combat test required. Pay. 50 out of 100 gold bonus per battle. Valence City entry pass. Valence City. A real city. Mage Guild headquarters, proper facilities, everything Coldwind City pretends to be, but isn't. This frontier town was basically the tutorial zone, and I'd been hanging around way too long. Time to see the big city. I tugged my cloak tighter, trying to hide the fact that my gear was glowing like a Christmas tree underneath. See, over the past 4 months I'd enchanted literally everything. Arrows, boots, even my underwear chainmail, with blue enchantments. Amazing for combat. Terrible for discretion. The Shadow Veil oil I bought from Myra's shop ages ago? Completely overwhelmed. Putting it on my gear now was like draping a tissue over a searchlight. I'm covered in expensive enchantments. Glow was bleeding through everything. If I could get certified as a mage and become an enchanter myself, at least I'd have a cover story for why all my stuff glows. Enchanting is actually a mage specialization in this world. And there's no restriction on getting multiple professional certifications. If you're talented enough, you can stack as many classes as you want. Most people only specialize in one thing because of time, money, and brain capacity. But having that mage certification would explain a lot of suspicious things about me. Decision made. Join the caravan, get to Valence City, figure out the mage thing there. The Silver Will Trading Company had a massive plaza in the trade district. When I arrived, there was already a line stretching around the block. Mostly young people my age, ambitious adventurers who saw Coldwind City for what it was, a stepping stone. Valence City was where real careers happened. I joined the queue and immediately the whispering started. Dude, look at that guy's bow. That thing looks insanely expensive. Gotta be over 1,000 gold. Puffed. Probably just for show. Rich kids love flashy toys. My cloak was low-key. My attitude was low-key. But strapping 1,000 gold masterwork bow to your back is about as subtle as wearing a diamond necklace to a job interview at a fast food restaurant. I ignored everyone and studied the test arena. Left side, melee fighters sparring with the company's armored guards. Right side, ranged combatants. Rule was simple. Survive 10 minutes against a warrior without losing. Certified mages got to skip straight to interviews because apparently having a diploma matters even in fantasy worlds. The company guards were decent, early gold rank level, solid equipment, but their combat instincts were predictable. Textbook fighters. By the manual types. Next, Victor, my turn. I walked onto the field and unslung my bow. The guard facing me was a big boy, 200 plus pounds, kite shield, one-handed warhammer. He saw my bow and his eyes flickered with that classic, easy fight against a ranged class, confidence. Then he noticed the bow itself and got momentarily distracted by how pretty it was. Watch out, kid. My hammer doesn't have eyes. Then he charged. Full speed. Kite shield up. Human battering ram. I just stood there. He got within 20 meters. The pressure wave from his charge was hitting my face. Then I moved. 3 beat. Applause. Boom. A thunderclap exploded under my feet, so loud the charging guard flinched mid-sprint. One instant of hesitation, and in that instant, I was already gone. A gracefully bowing afterimage stood where I'd been, while the real me materialized 10 meters to his side and rear. What the? He smashed my afterimage with his hammer. Hit nothing but air and embarrassment. I already had the bow drawn. The red fire gem inside the bow blazed to life. Since we'll be working together, let me introduce myself properly. I released. The fire arrow hit his shield, and, instead of the metallic ping you'd expect, produced the sound of a battering ram hitting a castle gate. Boom. A 200-pound armored warrior got launched off his feet. He skidded backward 3 or 4 meters before barely catching himself. Shield arm shaking so violently, he almost dropped it. His face said, "What just happened?" But his body said, "Please never do that again." I wasn't done. My fingers danced on the bowstring, switching between white lightning and blue frost without pause. For arrows in rapid succession. Not a single one aimed at him directly. Every arrow landed on his shield edge, at his feet, or exactly where he was about to step. Ice arrow hit the ground, instant skating rink. The guard's legs went in two different directions. Almost did the splits in full plate armor. Lightning arrow exploded on his breastplate. Electricity crackling through the metal, muscles spasming, every movement becoming a jerky puppet dance. Slow, then control. Same recipe I use on dungeon monsters. Works on humans too. The guard felt like a fly trapped in a web. Every direction he tried to move, an arrow was already there, hurting him back. His impenetrable defense looked silly against elemental attacks that didn't care about shields. Stop. 1 minute. That's all it took. The examiner, a middle-aged man in silk robes, jumped to his feet and called it. He had sharp eyes. He could see this wasn't an exam. It was a one-sided lecture. The young archer was so far above the guard's level that continuing was just cruel. You pass. He speed-walked onto the field, glancing between his sweating, trembling guard who hadn't touched me once, and me, standing there without a single heavy breath. Mr. Victor, yes? Your abilities exceed our requirements. Welcome to the Silver Will Caravan. Thank you. I did a little bout whirl, purely for style points, and slung the still frosty weapon onto my back. The crowd of young adventurers was staring at me with their mouths open. Complete silence. So this is what it feels like to be an endgame player going back to the beginner zone. Every MMO player's fantasy, and I was living it. This trip to Valen City is going to be fun. The next few days were all about shopping for the caravan trip. Dried food, alchemy potions, the usual road trip survival kit. I ducked into Starlight Hand, Myra's enchanting shop, for my regular supply run. The lavender and mercury smell hit me like an old friend. Welcome to AH. It's you. Mira spotted me and reacted like I was a wanted criminal. She whipped around to a tall woman standing beside her and started pointing at my face. Sister, this is the guy. What did I do? He comes in every time, buys like 15 bottles of Shadow Veil oil, and never orders any enchanting work. He's obviously a spy from a rival enchanter. He's buying our concealer to cover up their shoddy work. It's an insult to Starlight Hand's reputation. In Myra's brain, buying their oil without buying their enchanting was like going to a Michelin restaurant just to steal soy sauce packets for your instant noodles at home. Unforgivable. Then I noticed the woman next to her. Deep purple mage robes with silver Star Trail embroidery on the sleeves. Wavy hair like seaweed in a shampoo commercial. Gold-rimmed glasses on a sharp nose. The overall vibe of a university professor who could either recommend you for a scholarship or destroy your academic career with one email. Behind those glasses, ice blue eyes that could cut diamonds. This was the sister, the actual enchanter, and she was staring at me with undisguised curiosity. Time to improvise. I unslung my bow and placed it on the counter, channeled some energy into it. The red fire gem inside blazed to life, filling the dim shop with searchlight-level illumination. See? I'm a stealth ranger. This bow glows like a lighthouse. I need the oil to not die in the dark. That's why I buy so much. No espionage involved. Myra's mouth formed a perfect, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought you were from Black Iron Hammer next door. I totally misjudged you. Please forgive me. No worries. Caution is healthy. Now, the usual. Except I'm traveling far this time. Give me 30 bottles. 30? Coming right up. 20% off for the misunderstanding. She zoomed into the back warehouse like a guilt-powered rocket, leaving me alone. With the sister. Silence. I reached for my bow to put it away and realized she was still staring at me. Not like a shopkeeper looking at a customer. More like a scientist looking at a fascinating lab specimen. Nice cover story. She pushed up her glasses, smirking. Mira bought it. But did you really think that would fool a certified enchanter? My heart did a little flip. What? Do you mean? Drop the act. Her slender fingers tapped the counter rhythmically. From the moment you walked in. She leaned forward, those ice blue eyes glowing with some kind of mage sight. Your leather armor, boots, bracers, belt, even your arrow quiver. Every single piece of equipment on your body is radiating intense magical energy. You've got enough concealer oil caked on to paint a house, but to my senses, you're a giant fireball streaking naked through the midnight sky. Blinding. This is what happens when an amateur tries to fool a professional. I was a kindergartner who drew a mustache with marker and tried to buy beer. Your enchanting technique is unusual, she continued, thankfully not pressing the identity crisis. I've never seen this methodology. It's not any school I'm familiar with. She was curious, not suspicious. Her brain had already constructed a theory. Is this the work of some reclusive master enchanter? Or did you strip these from an undiscovered ancient ruin? I grabbed the lifeline with both hands. Bit of both? I have. Special supply channels. She gave a light laugh. 3 parts teasing, 7 parts. I see through you completely, but choose not to destroy you. So where are you traveling that you need 30 bottles? You're not putting this stuff on your face, are you? My embarrassment could have excavated a 3-bedroom apartment under Cold Wind City. Ahem. I'm escorting a caravan to Valence City. Valence City? Something flickered in her eyes. You know it? I graduated from the Star Radiance Mage Tower there. She said it casually, like mentioning she'd gone to the grocery store. Formally trained. Academy graduate. A real mage from a real institution. My eyes lit up like my bow's fire gem. This woman was a living guidebook. Could I ask you something? What are the Mage Guild's certification requirements in Valence City? And how does someone get a meditation technique? She gave me a look, the kind you give someone who just asked, how do I become president? You want to be a mage? She scanned my purely physical combat ranger appearance up and down, expression getting progressively more amused. Any mage guild on the continent will certify you if you can construct a complete first circle spell model. That's the test. Then her tone shifted to something between pity and dark humor. As for meditation techniques, those are the crown jewels of every mage tower and noble family on the continent. The secret sauce, the class barrier, the ticket to the upper world. She held up one finger and wagged it. Option 1. Sell your soul to a mage tower. Sign a multi-decade apprentice contract. Start by washing test tubes and cleaning toilets. If you're lucky, you'll learn the basics in 10 years. Option 2. Buy leaked fragments at auction. Budget, tens of thousands of gold minimum. Risk, going insane from practicing an incomplete technique. Tens of thousands of gold. Or cleaning toilets for a decade. My heart sank to somewhere around my ankles. There's no other way. Sure there is, she shrugged. Be the biological child of an elemental lord. Or achieve some revolutionary breakthrough in magical theory so groundbreaking that archmages beg you to join them. And they'll hand you a technique for free. She actually laughed out loud. Although, given the enchanting style on your gear, you might not be as far from revolutionary breakthrough as you think. Mira burst out of the back room hugging a crate. Sir, 30 bottles. All packed. The sister waved dismissively. Charge him 70%. Consider it a farewell kindness before Valence City crushes his dreams. Outside, the cold wind slapped my face back to reality.